Important update about YouTube playlists. Hey everyone. We've received many messages asking why our YouTube playlists aren't showing up. Do we create YouTube playlists? Yes, we absolutely do. So why can't you see them? Honestly, we're not sure. We've been in contact with YouTube support for several months now, but we still haven't received a clear answer or solution. After much discussion, our team has decided to take matters into our own hands. We believe the issue might be related to the number of playlists we've created on a single channel, possibly too many. Our solution? We're launching 2 additional YouTube channels, giving us a total of 3. This way, we can organize our audiobooks better and avoid the playlist visibility issue in the future. This change only affects our YouTube audience. If you're a patron supporter, you can still access all our audiobooks by visiting the collection menu on Patreon. Thanks so much for your time and continued support. Happy listening! Originally, this container was filled with Dragon Vein energy, but now it's directly only 3/4 left. It's as if a large amount of Dragon Vein energy was inexplicably consumed without anyone knowing. Sasuke murmured, "It seems that it really is the Dragon Vein that is causing trouble." He quickly pulled Naruto and ran out, telling Pops what he had seen and heard. After hearing this, Whitebeard's face slowly showed a smile. Grrrr, I hope what I think will really happen. Meanwhile, in the distant sea area, a pirate ship was sailing, and the ship was full of pirates with strange appearances and figures. Grrrr. Whitebeard, that old guy is dead. This is definitely a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. The 5-meter-tall man wearing a black captain's hat was laughing wildly at this moment. The territory left by the Whitebeard pirates is huge. Gulp, gulp, gulp. Even if we can only occupy 1 or 2 islands, we can make a fortune. Pirate King? One Piece? Who would believe such a thing that deceives children? Only Baileys are what pirates should pursue. The burly man shouted at a group of pirates below, "Guys. In 3, we will reach the territory of the Whitebeard pirates. Everyone, get your spirits up. Even if that old guy Whitebeard is dead, his subordinates are not vegetarians, we will soon have to fight a tough battle. After we have robbed enough money, we will join the Blackbeard pirates." Obviously, this 5-meter-tall burly man is the captain of this pirate group. Under his shouting, hundreds of New World pirates on the ship shouted in unison, their faces showing greed and bloodthirsty intent. When Whitebeard was still alive, they dared not invade Whitebeard's territory, let alone seize the islands under the Whitebeard pirates. But a few days after the end of the war at the top, they watched Whitebeard die in a live broadcast. In this way, they no longer have any objects to fear. Captain Mori. There seems to be a pirate ship ahead. It's a big ship. At this moment, the helmsman on the ship suddenly shouted. Isn't it normal to have a pirate ship? This is the New World. Pirate ship. Captain Mori didn't care at all. Maybe it's also a group of guys who want to seize the opportunity to bite a piece of fat from Whitebeard. Gulp, 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 ignore them. As long as they don't provoke us, don't bother with them. But, Captain, they seem to be coming towards us. What? Mori finally realized that something was wrong. A pirate with a keen eye quickly handed over a huge telescope. Mori took it casually and looked forward with the telescope. Sure enough, he saw a huge pirate ship in the distance, sailing towards their direction. At this moment, Mori suddenly froze. This ship. Why does it look familiar? The very familiar huge pirate ship made him feel bad. He couldn't help but move his gaze upwards, to the top of the mast of the Moby Dick. Immediately, a pirate flag came into view. Even though the pirate flag was constantly fluttering in the sea breeze, Mori could still clearly see the pattern drawn on the pirate flag. He was stunned on the spot, his expression dumbfounded, his eyes almost popping out. "Eh? 3 consecutive unbelievable exclamations came out of his mouth. Drops of cold sweat began to seep from his forehead and palms. "Captain, what's wrong? What did you see?" The pirates also realized that something was wrong. Gulp. Mori was sweating profusely, unable to suppress the shock in his heart. After a painful swallow, he uncontrollably exclaimed, "That ship! That ship is the Moby Dick of the Whitebeard pirates." Logically speaking, the Moby Dick of the Whitebeard pirates should have been destroyed by the Navy during the war at the top. But the ship in front of him is clearly the Moby Dick. What is going on? Did someone deliberately build a pirate ship that is exactly the same as the Moby Dick of the Whitebeard pirates? And then hang a pirate flag to impersonate the Whitebeard pirates? Or is it the real Moby Dick? Is it the real Whitebeard pirates? Captain, what should we do? Should we turn the rudder away from them? Should we hide? A pirate couldn't help but ask weakly. Damn it. Mori bit his tongue, using the pain to calm himself down. He said with a grim face, "Whitebeard is already dead. I saw him die with my own eyes. Even if that is really the Whitebeard pirates, It is a Whitebeard pirates without Whitebeard. And the summit war has only ended a few days ago. The group of executives of the Whitebeard pirate crew must all be injured. Hide? Who do you think I am? I am Ogre Mari, who has a bounty of 600 million Baileys in the New World. Mori picked up a weapon next to him, which was a giant axe. The blade was bigger than a door panel, and it weighed tens of tons. Such a giant axe, he just picked it up with one hand, it seemed effortless. Mori, holding the giant axe, roared at a group of pirates. They are just remnants of the old era. Don't be afraid. Get closer to me. Gorara. If we can kill a few executives of the Whitebeard pirate crew, then our Mori pirate crew will be completely famous in the New World. Gunner. What are you dazed about? Load the cannonballs for me. Once you get close to that ship, fire at them. Blast them away. When the two pirate ships were only a few hundred meters apart, Kakashi had a look of surprise on his face. They seemed to be not very friendly. And their ship is not an ordinary merchant ship, right? It should also be a pirate ship. Could it be that they are pirates like us? Under the gaze of the Whitebeard pirate crew and others, the pirate ship in front was blocking Moby Dick. The cannons on one side of the pirate crew have already lit up. A full 20 black cannons are aimed at Moby Dick. Shishui has already pulled out his sword half an inch, he said solemnly. I sensed a strong malice. They should not be good people. They might want to do something to us. Kisame, carrying Seimata, sneered. TSK, they really have guts. They wouldn't want to use those cannons against us, would they? Just as Kisame's words fell, a barrage of cannon fire rang out in the sea ahead. The sight of 20 cannons firing at Moby Dick at the same time is terrifying, each cannonball tearing through the air with a sharp whistle. Unexpectedly, they really dared to do it. Kakashi's face tightened. Just as he was about to step forward to stop the attack of the cannonballs, he suddenly noticed that Pops had made a move. Kakashi paused in his steps, looking at Whitebeard in surprise. Just then, Whitebeard casually punched the air. Crack. With a crisp sound, dense air cracks spread wildly in front. 20 cannonballs were instantly detonated by the shock force halfway before they hit Moby Dick. Boom. 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 The cannonballs exploded in the air like fireworks. The shock force did not stop. The seawater in front was also affected by the shock force, stirring up a huge wave of tens of meters high, sweeping towards the pirate crew ahead. Gorara. Gorara. Whitebeard was laughing wildly with Haki. He was laughing so happily that he even laughed out tears. Whitebeard had forgotten how long he hadn't shed tears. The last time he cried, it seemed to be when he witnessed Ace's death. Just now, Whitebeard, with his exquisite observation Haki, truly heard the conversation of the group of pirates on the pirate ship ahead. Clearly, what those pirates said was very rebellious, and had seriously provoked the Whitebeard pirate crew. Whitebeard should be very angry. But at this moment, Whitebeard laughed. And he was laughing wildly. Gorrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrr This place is my hometown. Dragon veins brought us from the ninja world to the new world. Gorara. As Whitebeard's voice fell, everyone on the ship was dumbfounded. Even Conan and Orochimaru, who have such personalities, can't hold back their expressions on their faces. Compared to the shock on the side of the Whitebeard pirates, the Mori pirates in front were plunged into deep fear and despair. They hadn't even reacted to what had happened. They only saw the sea in front suddenly undergo a violent tremor, and waves tens of meters high rushed towards them. Tsunami. It's a tsunami. So big. So high a tsunami. We're done. We're done. We're going to die. Captain. Save us. A series of terrified shouts rang out on the ship. Clang the pirate with a bounty of 600 million, Mori's giant axe had already fallen to the ground. In the second before the waves swallowed them, Mori murmured in shock. Vibration. Quake fruit. It's Whitebeard. Chapter 333, New World. Marco's Pain. The territory of all nations? Waves tens of meters high completely overturned the pirate ship in front, and the pirates on the ship had no room to resist at all. The impact of the waves even shattered the pirate ship. The force of the vibration also caused the surrounding sea area to set off waves, and even Moby Dick, a super-large pirate ship, was undulating under these waves. When the sea surface calmed down a bit, everyone only saw some fragments of wood floating on the sea's surface. The pirate ship had disappeared. For the powerful force of Whitebeard, the people on the ship were basically used to it. So this is originally Pop's hometown? Naruto hurriedly looked around and found that there was nothing worth seeing around. He scratched his head in confusion. Why is it all sea? The people in Pop's hometown can't live on a ship every day, can they? Stupid Naruto, how could there be such a place? Sasuke on the side rolled his eyes and retorted, because this is the sea, as long as you sail a little bit, you can definitely find an island. Pops, which part of your hometown is this? Naruto asked Whitebeard curiously again. Whitebeard grinned, he messed up Naruto's hair with one finger, and said, Gorara, this place is the New World. It's the most dangerous place in the entire sea. Whitebeard looked at the sea horizon in the distance. He continued, as long as we can find an island next, we can determine our position. And just now, Whitebeard knew through his observation hockey that the current time period was not long after the end of the war at the top. At most, it's only been a few days. This means the body of that idiot son Ace might still be fresh, and materials for summoning impure world reincarnation can be easily extracted from his body. Meanwhile, somewhere in the sea, a number of pirate ships were sailing on the sea. Most of the pirate groups were very broken, as if they had gone through a big battle. Marco, who was wrapped in bandages all over his body, was squatting on one of the pirate ships, covering his face in pain, washing his face with tears. How could it be like this? Marco, the captain of the first team of the Whitebeard pirates, blamed himself a lot. He slammed a fist heavily on the deck under his feet, smashing a big hole in the deck. Marco bit his teeth with tears. It's all because of me. If I could be stronger, Pops wouldn't have to stay behind. If I could stop Ace in time, Ace wouldn't have been killed by the Navy. And Teach. No, he should be called Blackbeard. Marco was furious. This bastard, I must kill him with my own hands. A sound of footsteps came from the side. Marco turned his head to look, and found that it was Diamond Jazu who only had one arm left. Jazu put a pot of wine next to Marco and sat down with a plop. He frowned with a rough face and said in a deep voice, Marco, we must avenge Pops and Ace. Marco nodded. He took a deep breath, tried to calm the sad thoughts in his heart. After a period of rest, we will go to find that bastard Blackbeard. By then, our Whitebeard pirates and his Blackbeard pirates will have a life and death battle. We must cut off that bastard's head. Marco paused for a moment, then continued, but before that, we might want to thank the Red Hair pirates during our rest. If it weren't for their timely assistance, we might not even be able to bring back Pop's body. The Whitebeard pirates indeed need to recuperate now, as many people are injured. On each of these pirate ships, there must be at least tens of thousands of wounded, of which at least 2,000 to 3,000 are seriously injured. These days, Marco has been busy treating the wounded. Fortunately, his devil fruit ability is very special, otherwise, he would really be exhausted. Where are we going to bury Pops and Ace's bodies? At this time, the captain of the 5th team of the Whitebeard pirates, Flower Sword Vista, also came over. He was also wrapped in bandages. Obviously, he had suffered a lot of injuries in this war at the top. Marco said, Pops once said, if one day he dies, his body will be buried in his hometown. Let's bury Pops and Ace in Pop's hometown. Vista nodded. Just as he was about to say something, suddenly a small boat came near their pirate ship. The pirate on the small boat quickly climbed onto the ship along the rope. You can see that the pirate's face is full of panic, as if something big is about to happen. Captain Marco. Captain Jazu. Captain Vista. As soon as he got on the ship, he shouted at Marco and the others, no, it's not good. Something big has happened. In panic, his voice was even trembling. Marco immediately realized that something was wrong. He knew this pirate was from the first team of the Whitebeard pirates. If he remembers correctly, the other party should be watching Pops and Ace's bodies, right? What's wrong? Marco asked hurriedly. The pirate's face was full of horror, and he cried out with a whimper, Pops. Pop's body. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Marco, Jazu, and Vista suddenly stood up. Jazu was so excited that he lifted the pirate up with one hand, his two big eyes staring at the other. Hey! What happened to Pop's body? Put him down. Jazu? Marco frowned and scolded, we are all family. Jazu finally calmed down. He let go of the trembling pirate. The pirate's voice was trembling and choked. Originally, Pops and Ace's bodies were temporarily placed into temporarily built coffins. Several days have passed. Everyone is worried that the bodies will rot. Everyone discussed whether to do some preservation work on Pops and Ace's bodies, and then, after we opened the coffin, we found that Pop's body was gone. Marco. Vista. Jazu? Pop's body is gone? How is that possible? It's only been a few days. And they watched Pop's body being put into a temporarily built large coffin. Why is it gone? Marco immediately thought of whether there was a traitor like Blackbeard in the pirate group. Marco forcibly kept his sanity. He clenched his fist and asked, notify all the team captains and pirate ship captains under their command. Let them count the detailed number of their subordinates. If anyone is found missing, it means they are the bastards who stole Pop's body. Marco bit his teeth word by word, his eyes were about to split, he wished he could bite his 2 rows of teeth. He absolutely does not allow Pops to be killed, and his body to be insulted by a group of insignificant people. Pops. There's an island ahead. On the other side, on the Moby Dick, Naruto cheered and shouted, I see the island ahead. It's right ahead. It's already visible to the naked eye. The new Whitebeard pirates do not have any maps of the New World. Whitebeard couldn't possibly remember such a large area of the sea. When they were looking for nearby islands, they were completely relying on luck. Who would have thought that today's luck would be so good? Not only did they arrive at Whitebeard hometown through the dragon veins, but they also found an island in less than 5 hours. Gorrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrr At this time, in the cabin, Orochimaru is curiously studying the seawater of the pirate world. It seems not much different from the seawater of the ninja world. But it seems to be a bit different. Orochimaru squinted his golden eyes. The seawater of this world seems to have an extra substance, which I don't understand. It seems that this is indeed not the ninja world, and it's not even on the same planet. In other words, this should be another world. Orochimaru finally understood why a man like Whitebeard suddenly appeared from the ninja world. No wonder I had never heard of a person named Whitebeard before. It turns out he is not from the ninja world at all. I see. That's right, if there is a powerful person like Whitebeard in the ninja world, no matter how low-key he is, there will be some rumors circulating in the ninja world. Orochimaru murmured to himself. So that's why Whitebeard suddenly appeared in the ninja world as if he popped out of a stone. Thinking of this, Orochimaru became very interested in this new world. Will this world have the secret of longevity? Hee, interesting. Too interesting. Orochimaru raised the corners of his mouth. And, there is still more than half of the energy of the dragon veins on the ship. If I'm not mistaken, this ship should be able to there is still more than half of the energy of the dragon VO go back to the ninja world. A ship that can travel back and forth between two worlds, haha. Sasori and I actually made such a thing. Indeed, scientific progress cannot be separated from accidents. Compared to Orochimaru, who was in a good mood, Sasori was in a very bad mood. Damn. Sasori was so angry that he pulled out the puppet's knuckles and put them back on, pulled them out and put them back on. He was very annoyed. How could this happen? He thought that after he remodeled this ship for Whitebeard, he could get rid of Whitebeard's control and then leave the Whitebeard pirate crew. As a result, this ship crossed over. It took the whole ship across other world. And, Sasori temporarily didn't understand how to use the power of the dragon veins to cross back to the ninja world. This made him even more depressed. This means that he still has to stay on Moby Dick. After all, Sasori doesn't know where to run in this other world. It seems that it's not so easy to leave the Whitebeard pirate crew. Conan's teasing voice sounded next to him. If puppets could change color, then Sasori would definitely be black-faced now. He glanced at Conan. Humphrey, aren't you the same? At least I don't carry anything on me, but you carry the Akatsuki on you. Aren't you afraid you'll never return to the ninja world? Or, one day when you finally go back, you find that the Akatsuki has been destroyed and has become the history of the ninja world. Even. Not many people remember this history. Conan looked at the island in front of her and said. I was worried at first, but I don't know why I suddenly stopped worrying. She spoke very calmly, and her mood was indeed like this. At first, Conan was also worried that she might not be able to return to the ninja world, and even more worried that Nagato alone could not support the entire Akatsuki. But I don't know why, as time passed, she became more and more at ease. The only explanation is that being with Whitebeard naturally makes people feel at ease. On the other side. On the island. The world is really changing. Who would have thought that a few days ago? Far in the first half of the Grand Line, there was an unprecedented summit war. Charlotte Cracker, an officer of the Big Mom Pirates, was lying on a large chair, sighing leisurely. What a pity, Mom asked me to stay in Toto Land, not letting me go with them to seize the territories left by the Whitebeard Pirates. This place is Toto Land, a territory under the Big Mom Pirates, and this island is called Biscuit Island. Now, Cracker is just an outstanding officer minister, not one of the 3 sweet commanders of the Big Mom Pirates. Really? Cracker grumbled in complaint. What's so good about guarding Toto Land? After all, there won't be any people who are blind enough to break into our Big Mom Pirates territory. It's a pity that Mom didn't send me out to seize territories. If I were there, I would definitely be able to seize a few more islands from the Whitebeard Pirates. Just as Cracker was muttering, he suddenly heard a commotion outside, which made him frown. Cracker stood up. His 3-meter height was quite exaggerated, and his bare upper body revealed a very strong muscle. His strange hairstyle was like a long clover, The end of his hair was like a burning fuse, with sparks flickering constantly. He also had a very exaggerated large sword hanging behind his waist. Cracker walked out slowly. But before he went outside, he gently clapped his hands, and a biscuit soldier appeared, wrapping his entire body. With the disguise of the biscuit soldier, Cracker came outside. He glanced at the front, frowned and asked, "What's the noise? What's the noise? What's all the shouting about? Don't you have any dignity as subordinates of the 4 Emperor's pirates?" Upon seeing Cracker, this biscuit minister, the pirates under the Big Mom pirates immediately reported to him, "Cracker-sama, our people have found a pirate ship approaching us in the distance. We are discussing whether to sink it." Oh? Cracker was interested. A pirate ship? Don't they know this is Todo land? How dare they approach this sea area? A subordinate guessed, perhaps because of the defeat of the Whitebeard pirates, many pirates smelled the scent of the cake, and then flocked to the last territory of the Whitebeard pirates. Those guys are not familiar with the New World, and they accidentally entered our Toto land. After hearing this, Cracker sneered, "They are really looking for death. Any Tom, Dick, John and Harry dares to covet the cake of the Whitebeard pirates, they don't even know their own string. Just right, these days have been a bit too boring." Cracker prepared to stretch his muscles a bit. Chapter 334, Shocked Cracker. Is Whitebeard still alive? Is that the ship that broke into Toto land? Cracker, surrounded by a group of Big Mom Pirates members, came to the seaside dock of Biscuit Island, and he squinted his eyes to look at the pirate ship in the distance. Because it was too far away, he couldn't see the specific appearance of the pirate ship, but he could feel that the ship was very large. Being so far away, one can see a rough outline. It's probably not smaller than their Big Mom Pirates' main ship. It might even be bigger than their main ship. Cracker's eyebrows frowned slightly. As one of the 3 sweet commanders of the Big Mom Pirates 2 years later, he is not the kind of guy who doesn't think with his brain. Cracker realized something was wrong. Among the many pirate groups in the New World, which pirate group has such a large ship? It can be counted on one's fingers, right? Whitebeard pirates, Beast pirates, Big Mom pirates. And some big pirates' ships are that large, right? It seems a bit bad. Cracker, hidden in the biscuit soldier, slightly retracted his contemptuous expression, but he didn't worry too much. After all, this is the base of the Big Mom pirates. Moreover, Cracker is very confident in his own strength. If there is a ranking of strength among the pirates in Toto land, Cracker believes that he can definitely rank in the top 5, even the top 4, top 3 is not impossible. As for why it's not the top 2, Cracker still respects Kikari and Mom in his heart. Although he is very confident in his own strength, he does not think he is stronger than these 2. Cracker-sama, shall we send out a fleet to intercept them? A pirate suggested to Cracker. Cracker gave a deep smile. Hee, let them come over. If they want to negotiate with our Big Mom pirates in a low voice, we can't just sink them, can we? But if it's some troublesome character who wants to come over and cause trouble. Under Cracker's control, a smirk flashed across the face of the biscuit soldier, then let's kill them all. On the other side, the Moby Dick. That island looks strange, it looks like a cookie spread out on the sea, and the mountains on the island look like cookies too. Naruto tried hard to gaze at the distant island. As the Moby Dick got closer and closer to the island, the outline of the island was clearly visible, and the buildings on it could be vaguely seen. That means there are people living on the island. And judging from the scale of the buildings, there are quite a few people living on that island, probably no less than 30,000, which is more exaggerated than a small ninja village. Gorrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrr poured himself a drink, then introduced to a group of his sons and daughters in a hearty voice. Every island in the New World has its own unique features, and the climate here is very strange. For example, there are 2 islands next to each other. The island on the left may be hot all year round, and the island on the right may be covered with snow all year round. Grrrr, this is much more interesting than the ninja world. Hearing Whitebeard's introduction, Naruto's eyes lit up. He already had an urge to adventure in this new world. Speaking of which, we are pirates. If we just go like this, won't it cause panic? Kakashi touched his chin and muttered. Don't underestimate Pop's influence in his hometown. Kisame signaled Kakashi to relax a bit and not think too much. As time passed by the minute and second, the people of the Whitebeard pirates were waiting for the Moby Dick to approach the dock of the island ahead, while the people of the Big Mom pirates were waiting for an unexpected guest to arrive. Both sides were full of different expectations, and after 10 minutes, they could finally see each other clearly with their naked eyes. You don't need to activate the Byakugan, you can already vaguely see people. Neji said, it seems that there is a group of people gathered at the dock, and several people inside are ridiculously tall. Haiku smiled lightly and said, Perhaps the people in Pop's hometown are like this, they are much taller than the people in our ninja world. Whitebeard's eyes narrowed because he saw a huge flag hanging at the highest point of the island ahead. When a breeze blew, the huge flag was fully displayed in front of Whitebeard, allowing him to see the pattern on it. Whitebeard raised his eyebrows, his face showed a bit of surprise, but then he smiled heartily. Gorrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrr way, so he used such a term to refer to Big Mom. And to be honest, he and Big Mom are indeed old friends. After all, the two of them once worked together in the same pirate group. Although that pirate group was not very united. Shishui was a bit surprised when he heard Whitebeard's words, "Pop's old friend?" Whitebeard laughed, "Yes. Although we are all in the new world, we haven't seen each other for 10 or 20 years. Gorara, she is a very quirky woman." Meanwhile, Biscuit Island. Cracker, hidden in the biscuit soldiers, his expression went from contempt at first, to doubt later, to seriousness just now, and then to being dumbfounded now. Within 10 minutes, his expression had changed several times. Cracker's pupils contracted slightly because he had seen the clear appearance of the pirate ship, which was a pirate ship painted like a giant whale. In the entire New World, only one pirate group owns this ship, and other pirate groups don't even dare to imitate the appearance of this ship. Because that would anger a man. That man was once known as the strongest man in the world, possessing earth-shattering power. That man, named Edward Newgate, also known as Whitebeard. His ship is called Moby Dick. Coincidentally, the pirate ship that appeared in front of Cracker was exactly the same as the Moby Dick of the Whitebeard pirate crew. What shocked him to the point of almost biting his tongue was, he also saw the pirate flag pattern of the Whitebeard pirate crew from that ship. Cracker couldn't keep his cool. He couldn't help but gasp. Whitebeard pirate crew? Cracker was a bit stunned. Isn't it that the Whitebeard pirate crew just finished fighting at the Marine headquarters not long ago? The Summit War has only ended a few days ago, right? From the first half of the Grand Line, to the second half of the Grand Line, and then to the whole Cake Island. This distance, even if there is no marine blockade, it would take more than a month to sail, right? How did they return to the New World so quickly? And why did they come to the whole Cake Island? Could it be that after they returned to the New World, they found that the Big Mom pirate crew was encroaching on the territory under the Whitebeard pirate crew, so they wanted to retaliate against the Big Mom pirate crew? They want to occupy the whole Cake Island of the Big Mom pirate crew in the same way? To steal each other's tactics? A question mark flashed in his mind one after another, and cold sweat had already overflowed from Cracker's forehead. Even he, the Minister of Biscuits, was shocked to this extent, let alone a group of pirate underlings under him. In the end, it was Cracker who reacted first. He hurriedly grabbed a subordinate, and said anxiously, Quickly use the Den Mushi to notify Mom, let them hurry back. Just tell them that the remnants of the Whitebeard pirate crew have appeared in the whole Cake Island. The people of the Whitebeard pirate crew are now on Biscuit Island. What are you dazed about? Go quickly. Cracker kicked the subordinate who was still standing in place. Then, he shouted at another group of pirates. Start all those shore defense cannons. The other party is the Whitebeard pirate crew. Even if it is just a group of remnants who just lost to the Marines, they are also a group of formidable enemies. No matter what the purpose of the Whitebeard pirate crew is, his reaction can be considered a countermeasure. Cracker took a deep breath, he controlled the biscuit soldiers to walk a few steps forward, and stood firmly at the forefront of the dock. As the Minister of Biscuits, he absolutely cannot retreat half a step. Even if he knows that the other party is the Whitebeard pirate crew. He must keep them out. It really is exciting. Cracker's heart began to agitate, and a few cold lights of fighting spirit flashed in his eyes. The collision between the Four Emperors pirate crew and the Four Emperors pirate crew, it's a rare scene in 10 years. Oh, no. The moment Whitebeard died at the Marine headquarters, the Whitebeard pirate crew was kicked out of the Four Emperors. Without Whitebeard, the Whitebeard pirate crew is not worthy of being called the Four Emperors. When Moby Dick was only 300 meters away from the dock, Cracker realized that this ship was much bigger than he had imagined. It's several times bigger than their Big Mom pirate crew's main ship. Especially the exaggerated caliber cannons on the side of the ship, which made Cracker's eyelids jump. Is Moby Dick that big? Why does it feel like this is not the main ship of the Whitebeard pirate crew? When the pirate ship was only 100 meters away from the dock, Cracker was already so tense that all his muscles were tense, ready to face a big battle at any time. Just as he took a deep breath and wanted to shout and question what the Whitebeard pirate crew was going to do, an incredibly terrifying Conqueror's Haki erupted from Moby Dick. The visible Conqueror's Haki fluctuations spread throughout Biscuit Island in the blink of an eye, and the air was flickering with menacing black arcs. The dock was swept by a gust of wind, and the waves rolled up kept hitting the shore. A group of Big Mom pirate crew members who were ready for battle fell down hundreds of people in the blink of an eye. They all rolled their eyes and foamed at the mouth. They fainted without knowing what had happened. Under the terrifying impact of the Conqueror's hockey, even Cracker's breath stopped for 2 seconds. He quickly scanned behind him and found that apart from a dozen officers who were barely conscious, everyone else had fainted. Cracker's expression was extremely ugly. They released a strong wave of Conqueror's hockey hit as soon as they arrived. Obviously the other party's intention is no good. But before he could react, a hearty laughter echoed through the sky. The laughter combined with the Conqueror's hockey, making Whitebeard's voice seem to spread throughout the entire island. Gorrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrr come out to greet me?" Whitebeard took a few steps forward. He stood on the bow of Moby Dick, looking down at Cracker with a domineering gaze. "Little brat. You look very upset." Whitebeard grinned wildly. "Gorara. If you're upset, just hold it in for me." He said he was an old friend, but Whitebeard was not polite in his words. He and Big Mom hadn't seen each other for a long time, but there was still some friction between the two pirate groups. There were also many conflicts over territories. Cracker didn't respond at this moment. Because he was stunned. Completely stunned. Cracker, controlling the biscuit soldier, looked up at Moby Dick, and could see Whitebeard's tall and burly figure standing there. Cracker could also see Whitebeard's cloak fluttering in the wind, and even more so, he could see the Murakamagiri in Whitebeard's hand. For a moment, Cracker wondered if he was drunk today and was hallucinating. As a biscuit minister of the Big Mom pirates, Cracker couldn't possibly not recognize Whitebeard. It was precisely because he recognized Whitebeard that he was so dumbfounded, so stunned. Wit. Cracker swallowed a mouthful of saliva, until an incredulous exclamation finally escaped his lips. "Whitebeard?" A living, breathing Whitebeard was standing right in front of him. Is it the world that's gone crazy, or is he going crazy? Wasn't Whitebeard already dead in the war at the top? You know, he watched the live broadcast of that war at the top from beginning to end. He immediately grabbed an officer next to him with one hand, twisted the officer's head, and made the officer stare at Whitebeard. "You take a good look for me, is this person Whitebeard?" Cracker almost gritted his teeth and said this. Cracker-sama. The officer's voice trembled. He and the Whitebeard on the bounty poster, look exactly the same. Plop. Cracker's hand loosened, and the pirate officer fell directly to the ground. His palm was completely soaked with sweat. His eyelids were also twitching involuntarily. Whitebeard. Wasn't he already dead? Cracker murmured in shock. How did a living one come out? The most important point is at this level of Conqueror's hockey, impact could never be a fake Whitebeard. Height can be faked, appearance can be faked, but Conqueror's hockey can't be faked, right? Cracker stared wide-eyed at Whitebeard. The intense shock made him blurt out to Whitebeard, "Whitebeard. How did you survive? So you didn't die in the Summit War? You." Before his words were not finished, someone interrupted him. Hey. An unfamiliar voice, at some point, sounded on one side. Pops was the one who asked you a question first. You don't answer Pop's question, but instead ask Pops a question. Aren't you a bit impolite? You weird-looking big guy. Chapter 335, Kisame vs. Cracker. The appearance of water style in the world of pirates. Fishman race? When Cracker frowned and looked back, he saw a strange weapon-carrying unfamiliar fishman, who somehow stood not far from him. This guy didn't look like the fishman captain of the Whitebeard pirates. But it's normal, it's said that there are quite a few fishmen in the Whitebeard pirates, it's not a big deal if he doesn't know some of them. What fishman race? Kisame grinned and laughed. My name is Hoshigaki Kisame, one of the crew members of the Whitebeard pirates. What's your name? Kisame faintly felt that the big guy in front of him was not simple, which made him very interested in Cracker. In addition, this guy was so rude to Pops, Kisame already had a bit of an itching impulse. Hoshigaki Kisame. A bit of a strange name, it sounds like a name from the Wano country. Cracker's eyes narrowed slightly, he bluntly reported his identity and daimyo, Big Mom Pirates Biscuit Minister Thousand Arms, Reed, Sanju, Cracker. Saying that, he sounded a bit smug. If you fishmen pay attention to the bounty, you will find that my bounty is 700 million Baileys. Cracker controlled the biscuit soldiers, pointing a sword at Kisame. If you are just a small fry of the Whitebeard pirates, you don't need to talk nonsense with me. Fishman. 700 million Baileys? Hearing this, Naruto on the ship muttered, what is Baileys? It sounds like money. Sasuke analyzed, it should be the currency of this world, right? The currency of the ninja world is called Ryo, the currency of this world is called Baileys. Sasuke unexpectedly looked at Cracker. That guy seems to know that Pops is very powerful, and also knows Pop's famous name. I don't know why, he actually has the courage to raise his sword against Kisame. Is this? Could it be the pirates in Pop's hometown? Sasuke felt that the people in this world were a bit interesting, like a kind of will not to fear the enemy's strong strength. Naruto muttered, that guy also calls himself Senju Cracker, Senju. Does this have anything to do with big sister Tsunade? Tsunade behind him rolled her eyes when she heard this. Stupid kid, it's obviously his nickname. Senju should be his nickname, and Cracker should be his name. While the people on the ship were discussing, Kisame, who was confronting Cracker below, had a dangerous look in his eyes. Although Cracker was suppressed and deterred by Whitebeard's conqueror's haki, the arrogance in his character could not be suppressed. His words made Kisame feel a bit uncomfortable. Pops, can I use a bit of a brutal method to greet your old friend's subordinates? Kisame didn't rush to do it, but asked Whitebeard for advice. Whitebeard raised his eyebrows and laughed heartily. Gorrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrr also agreed to Kisame's request. After all, the one being beaten is Linlin's son, what does it have to do with him, Whitebeard? And the reason why Whitebeard reminded Kisame, indicating that Cracker is not simple, is also because Whitebeard noticed that this little brat does have something. This biscuit little brat's strength, even if it is placed in the Whitebeard pirates, can serve as a team captain. Pops said you are a bit tricky. Kisame has already carried Seimata on his shoulder, his face is a bit excited and a bit serious, he is eager to try, this really makes people itch. Mr. Thousand Arms Cracker. The fighting intent emanating from Kisame also let Cracker know what this fishman wanted to do. The Whitebeard pirate crew is indeed up to no good. He could only forcibly suppress the shock that surged up at the sight of Whitebeard in the flesh. Cracker gritted his teeth and turned to face Kisame. Cracker didn't know how many people were on the Moby Dick, but he knew very well. Even if he could defeat all the executives of the Whitebeard pirate crew, he couldn't defeat Whitebeard. What he can do now is to try to delay as much as possible, until Mom and Katakuri come back. Fishman. Cracker's eyes flashed with a cold light. You will regret the decision you made, you picked the wrong opponent. It was at this moment that Cracker's killing intent erupted. It was not Conqueror's hockey, but a special kind of killing intent. With the release of the killing intent, an invisible wind pressure swept across the entire dock, blowing Kisame's clothes. Feeling the momentum of the other party, Kisame was so excited that his fingertips were trembling. That's it, this is the strong opponent I've been looking forward to. As his words fell, Kisame moved. Whoosh! Using the teleportation jutsu, Kisame appeared in front of Cracker in the blink of an eye. He leaped up, holding the hilt of Seimata with both hands, and smashed it hard towards the head of the biscuit soldier. Seimata, Annihilation Slash. With this strike, Kisame even had the confidence to smash a huge piece of iron into a dent. Bang! The astonishing blow caused the biscuit soldier's head to tilt back. But at this moment, Kisame found that the feel of his hand was a bit off. The next second, the biscuit soldier was already swinging his great sword at him. Swish! The great sword split a wooden stake in half, but Kisame disappeared. When he appeared again, he was already behind the biscuit soldier. Seimata, Pheasant Strike. Kisame swung Seimata and smashed it towards the crotch of the biscuit soldier. It's normal for ninjas to specialize in attacking people's weak points, right? Bang! Under Kisame's monstrous strength, this strike even lifted the large biscuit soldier off the ground by a meter. You've picked the wrong opponent, Fishman. Cracker controlled the biscuit soldier to turn around and slash with a sword. Kisame immediately raised Seimata to block, but was knocked back more than 10 meters by the biscuit soldier. When Kisame finally landed on the ground, he retreated several steps before stabilizing his body. The ground under his feet had been stepped out of one pit after another. Kisame's eyes intensified a few points. Attacking the weakest part of the human body doesn't work? Could it be armament hockey? And this Cracker's strength is outrageous. Kisame found that his monstrous strength was actually surpassed by the other party. The key is that even though the other party's physique is so large, the reaction speed and the speed of the attack are also ridiculously fast. No wonder Pops told him not to underestimate the other party. Indeed, he is a tough opponent. Kisame slowly unwrapped the bandage around Seimata, revealing Seimata's original appearance, indicating that he was taking it seriously. What is this? Cracker raised an eyebrow. Pufferfish. Blowfish. Hey, you're using this as a weapon? Kisame sneered. Seimata has killed many people, don't underestimate it. Cracker. Kisame rushed up again and clashed with Cracker. The sound of metal collision was endless. The two began to clash in taijutsu. He's strong. Conan analyzed calmly, that pirate called Cracker, his physical strength is terrifying, his swordsmanship is also superb, his physical power and reaction speed are both excellent. This person is a very powerful taijutsu master. Kakashi's pair of Sharingan were silently copying Cracker's combat techniques. He pondered, this person should have armament haki and observation haki, and his proficiency is probably very deep. Shishui couldn't see the fight, but he could sense every confrontation between the two through observation haki. Shishui said, Seimata hit this person, and it seems that he doesn't feel pain. And he didn't eat chakra, which means that people in this world really don't have chakra in their bodies. Izumi Uchiha muttered, then isn't our Uchiha clan's Mangekyo Sharingan weakened in this world? The Uchiha clan's Genjutsu is famous in the ninja world, but if Genjutsu can't be used in this world, for the Uchiha clan with Sharingan, it is indeed a kind of weakening. Is this the fight of adults? I can't see clearly at all. Lee swallowed a mouthful of saliva, his face full of fervor. Shikamaru showed a hopeless and world-weary face. If I fight this kind of taijutsu master, my shadow imitation technique would be broken every time I want to control this kind of person, Neji murmured, a very powerful guy. He has been hit so many times and is still unscathed. I just don't know if our Hyuga clan's acupoint technique can work on him. Below. Cracker controlled the biscuit soldier, his left hand had already raised a biscuit shield at some point, and after easily blocking Kisame's full-strength attack, he swung down a large sword in his right hand. The edge of the large sword almost grazed Kisame's shoulder and cut down. An invisible wind pressure raged out to the rear, pulling out a trench tens of meters long on the ground. Slash! Kisame glanced back from the corner of his eye, and his eyebrows jumped instantly. He found that the opponent he picked was indeed too tricky. Kisame's arms were somewhat numb, but the opponent was still unscathed. He had never seen such a person with amazing defense. Even if the other party was made of iron, it should have been hit with a dent, right? Could it be that this person's proficiency in armament haki has reached an incredible level? Why? Why are you hiding? Fishman. Cracker showed a contemptuous smile. The people of the Whitebeard pirates are nothing more than that. Just now seeing Whitebeard's attitude towards this fishman's position in the Whitebeard pirates should not be low, right? At least he is a senior officer, right? Ha. No wonder the Whitebeard pirates were so embarrassed when they were beaten by the Navy in the war at the top. They are not that great after all. TSK, it's really annoying. Kisame quickly retreated a dozen meters, his hands quickly formed seals, and he completed a dozen seals honestly. The ninjutsu of the ninja world appeared for the first time in the pirate world. And what appeared was water style. Water style, great shark bullet technique. Behind Kisame, there was a vast ocean. He doesn't need to use the chakra in his body to make water, he just needs to manipulate the water of the sea. So, under Cracker's stunned gaze, the sea surged out a mass of water of astonishing size, and in the blink of an eye, it turned into a giant shark. Eat this. With Kisame's loud shout, the great shark bullet technique rushed towards Cracker. Are you kidding me? He can control seawater? The warning premonition of observation haki came, Cracker's smile on his face stiffened, and his forehead once again broke out in a cold sweat. Kisame's move obviously challenged Cracker's cognition. Could this be a kind of devil fruit ability? Open sea, biscuit roll. Cracker was very clear about the weakness of devil fruit. He absolutely couldn't let that water or shark hit him. Cracker quickly controlled the biscuit soldiers, and swung a sword vigorously towards the front. Swish! The pink slash from this sword split the great shark bullet technique into two. But before Cracker could breathe a sigh of relief, Kisame had already prepared the second ninjutsu. Water style, 1,000 feeding sharks. A large amount of seawater rushed into the sky, turning into sharks the size of arms and falling downwards. This incredible scene made Cracker's eyelids jump. He could only raise the biscuit shield above his head. The 1,000 feeding sharks, which could smash a flesh and blood body into 1,000 holes, fell on the biscuit shield, without splashing a ripple. However, the exaggerated hardness of the biscuit shield only lasted for less than 3 seconds. Under the softening of the seawater, the biscuit shield snapped and actually softened and fell apart. A large amount of seawater and sharks fell on the biscuit soldiers, and the features of the biscuit soldiers began to blur. The big sword in his hand also looked a bit limp. Damn it, is it just a coincidence? Or it's just that I'm too unlucky? Cracker's face was as ugly as it could be. The sudden change made Kisame smirk. Oh? It seems like I've discovered some incredible secret. What Kisame didn't expect was that such a hard body would be afraid of water. Just now he was hitting so hard that his hands were numb, and he couldn't cause the slightest damage to the other party. However, these seawaters actually softened his body. Even that sword can be softened. What is the structure of this guy's body? Kisame was a bit confused. But one thing he was sure of. The other party had exposed a very fatal flaw. When the almost endless 1,000 feeding sharks ended, The biscuit soldier's wrapping Cracker's body began to soften quickly. Under Kisame's surprised gaze, a real Cracker emerged from the body of the biscuit soldiers. "I see," Kisame said, "so this is the real you? The weird big guy just now, was it a puppet you made? A clone? Or what? Where did this guy come from? He doesn't even know about the devil fruit ability?" Cracker felt that Kisame was pretending to be stupid, and he was very annoyed now that his weakness had been discovered. Devil fruit ability? Kisame was taken aback, and then reacted. A devil fruit ability similar to Pop's? Chapter 336, Information Kisame. Water style, water prison technique. Cracker couldn't figure out whether this fishman was pretending to be stupid or really stupid. At this moment, he had a gloomy face and gently clapped his palms. He only heard a pop sound. A biscuit soldier several meters tall suddenly appeared. He clapped again. Another biscuit soldier appeared. Pop. 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 The rhythmic clapping sound was endless. Under Kisame's somewhat surprised gaze, one after another biscuit soldiers formed a group. You can see dozens of biscuit soldiers protecting Cracker. They held shields in their left hands and swung big swords in their right hands. Every biscuit soldier looked exactly the same, and the murderous aura spread over the dock of Biscuit Island. A big guy is already so hard to deal with, he can actually make dozens of them at will? Naruto on the ship was dumbfounded, and he looks like he's not tired at all. Sasuke said solemnly, maybe it's just that the venue here limits his performance, so he can't make too many puppets. Sasuke took a deep breath, even if the weakness of this kind of puppet is seawater, but with so many numbers, it's also hard to deal with. Kakashi raised an eyebrow. What does the devil fruit consume? Chakra. But he shouldn't have chakra, could it be hockey? Or physical strength? Gar said in a deep voice. He's strong, perhaps stronger than Raza. Indeed, if Cracker fought Raza, who can't use water style, in a desert-like place, Raza might not be able to break the defense of the biscuit soldier. Conan frowned and murmured. Such a character in the new world is just a minister of a pirate crew. How strong is the captain of this pirate crew? Underneath the dock, Kisame, with his naked eyes, could no longer see Cracker, because his line of sight was completely blocked by the tall and burly biscuit soldiers. Strange, he doesn't seem to want to fight me in close combat. Kisame murmured. Could it be that his taijutsu is not strong? The reason I thought his taijutsu was strong before was all because of the super strong defense of this strange biscuit puppet? Kisame said to Cracker. The weakness of your devil fruit ability has been seen through by me, it's useless for you to create more puppets. Cracker, with a gloomy face, said in a deep voice. TSK. Don't talk big, do you think a pirate would leave his weakness unattended? Charge. With Cracker's command, dozens of biscuit soldiers formed a formation and pressed towards Kisame in unison. Water style, water dragon bullet technique. Kisame quickly formed seals, and a huge water dragon rushed towards the biscuit soldiers. The biscuit soldiers quickly raised their shields and blocked the water dragon. But their shields also clattered a few times and fell to the ground. Taking advantage of this gap, the biscuit soldiers rushed towards Kisame in unison. They were using the shield to block the first wave of water attack, and then took the opportunity to get close to Kisame. Facing several swords that were slashed at him, Kisame immediately raised Saimata to block. Clang. The ground under Kisame's feet was dented. His muscles were tense all over. He clenched his teeth tightly. With his own strength, he withstood the attack of several biscuit soldiers, making Kisame's arm muscles almost torn. Blood was even overflowing from Kisame's mouth. But the next second, several biscuit soldiers stabbed from both sides with swords, forcing Kisame to hurriedly abandon Saimata and jump back to avoid the attack. After barely avoiding the stabs from both sides, 3 biscuit soldiers jumped high and slashed at him with a sword. The sword blade tore through the air, and the 3 wind-pressured slashes instantly shattered Kisame's body. However, the shattered body did not bleed a drop of blood, but splashed out a lot of water. That was actually a water clone. Huh? Cracker was taken aback. Suddenly, a warning came from observation hockey. And, it was a very strong warning. Then, a loud shout came from above. Water style, great exploding water colliding wave. The surging tide spewed out from Kisame's mouth, and the sea surface behind also caused a large amount of seawater, rushing towards the dock. A lake's worth of water was pressing towards Cracker. This scene made Cracker's eyelids twitch. Each biscuit soldier also looked up, all showing the same dumbfounded expression as Cracker. As a devil fruit ability user, Cracker definitely didn't want to be soaked in seawater. Although seawater wouldn't deprive the devil fruit ability, it would make him completely weak. He finally pulled out a large sword hanging behind his waist. Cracker's arm muscles tensed up instantly, and armament hockey wrapped around his sword pretzel. Yes, this two-handed great sword is called that. Great ship / pretzel. He shouted out loud, and swung a sword. Instantly, a pink exaggerated slash spanned hundreds of meters in length, splitting the overwhelming seawater into two. The moment the slash touched the seawater, Cracker uttered two words in a deep voice. Fluctuation. Boom. A rotating shockwave erupted from the slash, instantly detonating the water above and below. A huge splash of water engulfed the entire Biscuit Island dock, as if a downpour had started, even reaching Moby Dick. Slap. Cracker clapped his hands together, and an umbrella made of biscuits was propped up over his head, and it was as thick as a dozen layers. He didn't want to be drenched by this seawater. Although seawater can soften his biscuits, but there are a dozen layers after all, it's not a problem to hold on for a while. But those dozen biscuit soldiers were miserable. They softened like biscuits soaked in water, and they all lay on the ground unable to move. Cracker's expression was extremely ugly. He was very upset by this feeling of being restrained. But before he could do anything else, a sharp breaking sound came from behind, and observation hockey also caught the crisis. Whoosh! 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 Cracker grabbed backhand, and with one hand he caught 3 kunai. He looked at Kisame in the distance, and crushed the iron-made kunai with his bare hands. Fishman, do you just like to play these house-like tricks? What made Cracker a little doubtful was that after receiving the opponent's sneak attack, the warning from observation hockey did not end. He found that at the end of the kunai he had crushed, there seemed to be several strange pieces of paper tied. Cracker found that the paper was still burning. Boom. 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 3 consecutive explosions enveloped Cracker completely, and the 3 groups of explosion flames swallowed him. Kisame picked up the Seimata that he had discarded earlier. Gently stroking the barbs on Seimata's body, after soothing Seimata, he laughed and said, "This is called explosive tags, haven't you seen it before, Cracker?" Cracker's sword strike just now really shocked Kisame. But as a ninja, Kisame has too many attack methods. Kisame is not afraid of strong enemies like Cracker. On the contrary, the stronger Cracker is, the more excited he will be. For Kisame, who has very few hobbies, there is nothing more interesting than challenging a strong enemy. If he can defeat that strong enemy, that would make Kisame feel countless times better than rewarding himself. Hey, when the dust was covered by the drizzling rain, Cracker's unyielding body appeared in Kisame's line of sight. It hurts, ah. You damn fishman. Cracker's eyes were full of bloodshot, and he was in so much pain that he was screaming. Kisame frowned. He found that the instant explosion of 3 explosive tags did not make the other party fall. The other party should have sensed the crisis with observation hockey and hurriedly used some special means to block the explosion. However, Kisame found that Cracker's cheek seemed to have been scratched a little by the explosion. This little scratch, if not sent to the hospital in time, might heal in a minute. But Kisame looked at Cracker, who was holding his face in pain and almost crying. He was a bit puzzled, very confused. This little scratch, is it worth shouting so much? Hey. Hey. Cracker was panting heavily, his vision was a bit blurry. That's because his eyes were really painful. Cracker has been very afraid of pain since he was a child, and he is scared of death. Not to mention that his cheek was slightly injured by the explosive tags. For Cracker, this kind of pain is no less than cutting off his hands and feet. Bastard. Cracker glared at Kisame. He held the pretzel in both hands. You've angered me. Fishman. I'm going to stew that puffer fish in your hand. Bang. Cracker burst out with a speed that almost made Kisame unable to react. Kisame could only hurriedly raise Seimata to block in front of him. Explosion roll pretzel. The tip of the pretzel covered with armament hockey stabbed into Seimata, and Seimata's mouth involuntarily opened wide. Kisame's face also changed abruptly. Because a force that he could hardly resist was transmitted from that big sword. Kisame was completely knocked out by this huge force. His body continuously crashed through several buildings on the dock. A mouthful of fresh blood spurted out of Kisame's mouth, and even 2 of his ribs were broken. The Seimata he was holding in his hand was panting like a dog. It seemed to have suffered an unbearable injury. On the ship, Kakashi's face changed. Kisame's taijutsu is not a match for that guy called Cracker at all. His brute strength is not even half of Cracker's. Kakashi took a cold breath. That blow just now, it should have been used with armament hockey. I saw his sword turn black. Really strong. Orochimaru couldn't help but lick his lips. He was very interested in Cracker's body. This kind of incredible physique, could it contain some secrets? Tsunoda frowned. This guy seems to be very afraid of pain. Can a person with so many weaknesses be so strong? That's ridiculous, isn't it? Hinata worriedly said, Uncle Kisame should be okay, right? Shizue responded, don't worry, if he can be killed so easily, then he is not the tailless-tailed beast Hoshigaki Kisame from Hidden Mist Village. Whitebeard still had a smile on his face. Recently, The stupid suns on the ship might have caught too many tailed beasts, and every time they were quite smooth, causing them to be a bit inflated. It's also good for that biscuit little brat to bring such a pressure to the stupid suns. Cough cough. He is really outrageous. He is as strong as a monster. It's almost close to the physical strength of a tailed beast, right? It feels like being hit by the Fourth Reich Hage with all his strength. Kisame had already crawled out of the building ruins. He wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, and his whole body shape was different from before. If Kisame was 7 parts human and 3 parts shark before, then he is now 5 parts human and 5 parts shark. And the Seimata in his hand has also disappeared. Obviously, Kisame and Seimata have merged into one. The chakra usually stored in Seimata has all poured into Kisame's body, allowing his injuries to recover at a speed visible to the naked eye. A part of the physical strength that was consumed was also directly replenished. But speaking of it, this is what a battle is. Kisame's pupils were also full of bloodshot. He clapped his hands hard and started to make seals. Kisame took a deep breath and exhaled, water style, great water cannon technique. A water ball with a diameter of more than 10 meters rushed towards Cracker at a speed that was too fast to cover its ears. Cracker was a bit surprised. Can you still stand up? He quickly slashed with his sword, instantly cutting the water ball open. Then, Cracker saw Kisame rushing towards him. Fishman, don't be ignorant of life and death. When Cracker was about to continue his move, he found that there was more than one Kisame in front of him. Cracker, it's not just you who can turn out a lot of biscuit men. 5 or 6 Kisames shouted at the same time. They all killed Cracker together. Cracker quickly cut one of the Kisame clones in half. Another clone kicked him in the chin with a spinning kick in the air. Cracker tilted his head back, avoiding this blow with the perception of observation hockey. The other 2 clones on the left and right also reached out to him. Cracker swung his sword in a big windmill. A circle of slashes also cut the 2 clones in half. Suddenly, Cracker hurriedly looked down. He found that the area near his feet had been covered with explosive tags by the fishman at some point. Explosive tags were burning. Cracker's pupils shrank. Boom. 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 The huge explosion at the dock could be heard clearly throughout the entire island. Cracker swept away the thick smoke and dust from the explosion with a single sword, his face ashen as he gritted his teeth. Do you think the same tricks will work on me? Kisame's voice echoed from behind Cracker. Of course they do. Cracker, the explosive tags are just to distract your observation hockey, to make you focus all your attention on the explosive tags. Cracker snorted, his face showing no surprise or shock. He turned around and reached out to grab behind him. Don't underestimate my observation hockey. Fishman. Do you think I can't find you behind me? Cracker grabbed Kisame's wrist in one hand. He sneered and squeezed hard. Crack. Kisame's wrist was instantly fractured by Cracker, the intense pain causing Kisame's forehead to break out in a cold sweat. Fishman, you've lost. Cracker raised his greatsword in his right hand, sneering. Being able to fight with me for nearly half an hour, you're quite impressive. It's you who lost. Kisame suddenly laughed. Cracker, the previous fight has allowed me to grasp some of your information, but you know nothing about me, do you? Cracker was taken aback. Kisame laughed. I clearly know that my taijutsu is not as good as yours, but I just want to create an opportunity to have physical contact with you. Can you guess why? You're too careless. Water style, water prison technique. Cracker. Chapter 337, Big Mom returns. Big Mom pirate crew and Whitebeard pirate crew. A large amount of water wrapped Cracker completely, forming a water ball with a diameter of 4 meters. The sudden sense of suffocation and the feeling of being wrapped in water made Cracker panic all of a sudden. Because he knew very well that once his body was soaked in water as a devil fruit ability user, he would definitely be in a predicament. But the next second, Cracker felt something was wrong again, because he found that he didn't feel weak at all. The water this fishman created was a bit strange. Although he was full of doubts in his heart, Cracker knew that he was in the process of fighting and didn't have time to think too much. Cracker snorted coldly, a string of bubbles gushed out of his nostrils, and he saw him clap his hands expressionlessly. Snap. A biscuit soldier suddenly appeared behind Kisame, raised a very sharp greatsword, and chopped it down at Kisame's head. Kisame frowned, he quickly dispelled the water prison technique, and immediately dodged this attack. Strange. Kisame murmured to himself. I once heard Pops say that what devil fruit ability users fear most is water. Wait. Kisame suddenly realized. He stared at Cracker in front of him, his right hand that had been crushed was quickly recovering. Kisame thoughtfully. Right. I understand. Kisame remembered that when Cracker saw the seawater being manipulated by him, he seemed to be very shocked. Perhaps what he fears is not the water created by ninjutsu, but seawater? That's right, If devil fruit ability users are afraid of all water, wouldn't Pops also be restrained by water-style ninjas? But Pops has never been restrained by water-style in the ninja world. Even the seawater in the ninja world doesn't work for Pops. This means only the water from Pop's hometown can work on devil fruit? Kisame suddenly realized. In just a few seconds, his wrist had fully recovered. He showed a sneer. Cracker, I understand. A sudden sentence made Cracker a bit confused about what this fishman understood. Water style, great exploding water colliding wave. Kisame quickly formed seals with both hands, and 3 huge water dragons suddenly surged up from the sea surface behind him. Each water dragon was as huge as a sea beast. The 3 water dragons roared and rushed towards Cracker. Cracker's face turned black again. He was not afraid of this fishman fighting him in close combat. In close combat, Cracker was fully confident that he could defeat this fishman. And with the lesson from before, he believed he would never get hurt again. The problem was that this fishman seemed to want to play this trick of controlling seawater again. Cracker gritted his teeth and raised his pretzel, and in just a second, he slashed out 3 times. Those 3 water dragons were instantly cut open by his slash before they even touched him. The cut water dragons bypassed Cracker and hit the dock heavily. Boom. 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 The dock under his feet trembled violently. Cracker was suddenly startled. He hurriedly turned around and looked down, only to see that when those 3 cut water dragons fell on the dock, they actually blasted the ground into pits. At the edge of the pit, there were several ferocious cracks spreading, covering half of the dock at a speed visible to the naked eye. A few fine cracks also appeared under Cracker's feet, and a little seawater was faintly seeping out from the cracks. Damn it. This guy wants to drop me into the sea. Cracker finally couldn't hold back the expression on his face. His face was full of shock. The next second, with a loud noise, half of the dock collapsed directly, including the position where Cracker was standing. Kisame's position also collapsed. But he stood on the sea with both feet, and in this process, he had already completed another ninjutsu. Water style, 8-sided water pillar technique. Huge water pillars surged up quickly on the sea surface, forming an octagon, enclosing Cracker. Cracker, who was about to fall into the sea, had to hurriedly clap his hands, and a platform made of biscuits floated on the sea. But the biscuits that touched the seawater were softening at a speed visible to the naked eye, and half of Cracker's foot was soaked in seawater. When he looked up, water pillars from 8 different directions were already coming towards him. Ringwave pretzel. Cracker twisted his waist and slashed out with all his strength, a 360-degree slash, instantly blasting the ninjutsu. Huh? Below. Suddenly, Cracker's pupils shrank, and he hurriedly jumped up with the help of the biscuit platform that was about to completely soften. Kisame's hands just passed through the softened biscuit platform. If Cracker hadn't reacted quickly, his feet might have been caught by Kisame, and then dragged into the sea by Kisame. Damn fishman, you're really despicable. Cracker, who was jumping in midair, decisively clapped his hands wildly, and one after another biscuit greatsword appeared beside him. Hundreds of biscuit greatswords fell towards the sea below, trying to attack Kisame hiding in the sea in this way. Unfortunately, Kisame in the sea is faster than on land. He easily dodged all the biscuit greatswords. Kisame looked up and saw Cracker falling down, and Kisame probably understood that this guy couldn't use moonwalk. While Kisame and Cracker were entangled in a tense fight, a huge pirate ship had already returned to the waters of Todo Land. This pirate ship is indeed the main ship of the Big Mom pirates. The reason why they came back so quickly was because the Big Mom pirates had just organized manpower last night to seize the territory of the Whitebeard pirates. After receiving an urgent call for help from the officers under Cracker's command, and learning about the specific situation, the Big Mom pirates were scared and returned quickly. Is it true or false? Cracker wouldn't be lying to us, would he? A minister of the Big Mom pirates was dumbfounded. Didn't Whitebeard already die? How could he appear on Biscuit Island? The news of his death has already spread all over the sea, right? It can't be that the news reports are all fake, right? Katakuri, one of the 3 sweet commanders of the Big Mom pirates, was frowning and looking at the waters of Todo Land ahead. He said, "True or false, we'll know when we see it. Cracker is loyal to the family, I don't think he would lie about this." Katakuri spoke up, and the others didn't dare to doubt Cracker anymore. Mama. Charlotte Linlin, the captain of the Big Mom pirates, also known as Big Mom, let out a string of harsh laughter, muttering to herself. "If I make a wasted trip, I'll be very angry, Cracker boy." Mama. The huge pirate ship returned to the world sea, without making any further stops, and headed straight for Biscuit Island. An hour has passed. Cracker, through constantly creating biscuit platforms, had to keep himself from falling into the sea, and also had to deal with Kisame hiding in the sea. This made him very annoyed. He wished he could pull out that fishman and cut him into sashimi. Kisame also felt an unprecedented fatigue. Cracker's physical strength far exceeded Kisame's imagination. If using the devil fruit ability is equivalent to a ninja using ninjutsu, then Cracker almost uses a ninjutsu every few seconds. After more than an hour in this situation, Kisame found that Cracker's physical strength was still very abundant. Not only was he strong like a monster, but his physical strength was also exaggerated like a monster. On the contrary, it was Kisame himself. Even if he was called a tailless-tailed beast, with an extremely majestic chakra, and Saimata, this power bank, his physical strength has a limit. Kisame felt that even if he were to single out a tailed beast, he wouldn't be so tired. He rose from the sea and stood on the sea surface, confronting Cracker who was standing on a biscuit platform. Kisame was all wet, and he couldn't tell whether it was sweat or seawater. "I'm almost at my limit, Cracker." Kisame's smile did not fade. He frankly admitted that his physical strength was not as good as Cracker's. "You're strong, really strong." Cracker's mouth twitched, uninterested in Kisame's set. "Fishman, what? Want to admit defeat?" Although he really wanted to cut Kisame into sashimi in his heart, but with Whitebeard watching closely, Cracker really didn't dare to do so. Kisame laughed. "Unless it's the moment I fall, otherwise I won't admit defeat. I just want to remind you, Cracker, next. I'm going to fight for my life." Bang! Kisame's feet splashed up several meters high of water spray. He instantly appeared in front of Cracker, and kicked Cracker's abdomen hard. Cracker remained expressionless, easily dodged Kisame's kick with observation haki, and unceremoniously slashed at Kisame with a sword. Kisame was cut in half by the big sword. Cracker spat. "Another clone?" He swung his sword back and slashed. The Kisame that suddenly appeared behind him was also cut in half by a sword. Cracker sneered. "I've said that the same tricks won't work on me. Fishman. I won't give you a chance to touch me again." Whoosh! Whoosh! 2 shurikens flew towards Cracker, but were easily blocked by Cracker. After Cracker remade a biscuit platform, he stabbed a sword into the sea below. Stab wave pretzel. Boom! The entire sea surface under his feet exploded, and this blasted Cracker himself dozens of meters high. Cracker's observation haki keenly felt that a figure was also blasted away by this attack. The corner of his mouth twitched slightly. "Caught you, Fishman." He actually made a biscuit platform in midair and ran towards that side. The effect of the fruit ability is almost maximized. Slash pretzel. When he was only a few dozen meters away from Kisame, Cracker slashed across the air with a sword. The slash with strong wind pressure swept across Kisame's body in an instant. Puff! A shocking blood flower burst on Kisame's chest, a very hideous wound deep enough to see the bone. Kisame spat out a mouthful of blood and fell heavily into the sea. Cough cough cough. Kisame lay on the surface of the sea, his blood staining the surrounding seawater red. He murmured to himself. "If it weren't for the timely use of a defensive ninjutsu and a piece of iron, I would have been cut in half, right?" Clap. A crisp clap sounded in his ear. A biscuit platform appeared in front of Kisame. Cracker landed, the tip of his sword pointing directly at Kisame's throat. He laughed heartily. "TSK, is this the level of an executive of the Whitebeard pirate crew?" He felt that he had earned a lot of face for the Big Mom pirate crew. What is this? Cracker suddenly caught sight of a strange scroll floating towards him on the sea. He also saw the scroll suddenly unfold, with some strange symbols on it that he couldn't understand. Also at this moment, a strong premonition from observation haki made Cracker break out in a cold sweat all over. Not good. Cracker suddenly realized that there was something wrong with this scroll. Hee hee. Cough cough. Cracker, I am a ninja, it's normal for me to use some underhanded tactics. Kisame also laughed. The moment his words fell, a huge water ball emerged from the scroll, enveloping Cracker completely. Trigger trap, water prison. Cracker was both angry and annoyed. He didn't expect to fall for the same trick again. But just as he wanted to struggle out of this water ball, a feeling of weakness made his face change again. Wait. There's something wrong with this water. When I was hiding in the sea earlier, I took the opportunity to seal some seawater in this trap scroll. Cough cough. Although Kisame's tone was very weak, he let out a victorious laugh. When I took your sword, it was to make you relax your guard, Cracker. Although I don't know much about observation haki, I also know. Observation haki can only play its greatest role when a person is most calm. Cracker. After seeing me seriously injured, your feelings of triumph, ecstasy, and contempt. These emotions have already filled your brain, haven't they? Kisame paused, and continued. Even if observation haki still predicts danger, it may already be too late. Cracker stared wide-eyed, wishing he could swallow Kisame whole, so angry that his lungs were about to explode. This damn fishman actually played mind games with him during the fight. And he was fooled. He fell for the other party's trick. But that feeling of powerlessness had already made Cracker unable to hold the sword in his hand. As he unwillingly let go, Pretzel fell into the sea, and the intense feeling of suffocation made him keep rolling his eyes. A minute later, Cracker's struggle was already flailing, but unfortunately, this struggle had no strength. At most it was just weakly waving his limbs. 2 minutes later, bubbles kept coming out of his mouth, and the struggle became smaller and smaller. He couldn't help but open his mouth, and seawater began to pour into his nostrils and mouth. 3 minutes later, Cracker passed out on the spot. The water ball that trapped him also dispersed. Cracker could no longer rise. A narrow victory, a hard-fought victory. Kakashi sighed with relief. If it weren't for Kisame grasping some information about this person during the fight, and the other party didn't know Kisame's information, Kisame might have lost here today. Witnessing this battle between Kisame and Cracker, Kakashi dared not underestimate the strong people in this world. And Whitebeard, who saw all this, also smiled. Gorara. As expected of my son. But at this moment, a huge pirate ship appeared in the far distance behind Moby Dick. Chapter 338, Clash of Conquerors Hockey. Whitebeard vs. Big Mom. Mom. Biscuit Island is just ahead. An officer reported to Big Mom after looking into the distance. Mama, it seems like we've spotted something incredible. Big Mom didn't pay attention to this guy, but squinted her eyes to look ahead on her own. She could see a huge ship at the Biscuit Island dock. And the style of this ship seemed very familiar to her. Katakuri stood next to Big Mom. His face was also serious, and he didn't know when he had gotten a telescope from one of his subordinates. Moby Dick. When he saw the true appearance of that ship, Katakuri's face hidden in the scarf changed slightly. Yes, he recognized that ship as the Moby Dick of the Whitebeard pirates at a glance. Mama, it seems that our Cracker boy didn't deceive us. Big Mom spoke with a cold tone in her laughter, running wild on my territory. You guys really have the guts. Whitebeard pirates. Although she didn't know if Cracker's news about Whitebeard still being alive was true, seeing Whitebeard's ship on her own territory, and it seemed to be causing damage to the islands of Tato Land. As one of the rulers of the New World, Big Mom would absolutely not sit idly by. Especially since she is in a sober stage now. Mama. Big Mom smiled with a gloomy face, and then suddenly let out a sharp scream. Stop it. You damn pirates of the Whitebeard pirates. Tato Land is not a place where you bastards can run wild. An incredibly piercing scream, accompanied by a terrifying conqueror's hockey, instantly covered the Biscuit Island ahead. In just an instant, almost everyone on the Moby Dick, including some officers of the Big Mom pirates who were still standing on Biscuit Island, changed their expressions drastically. Naruto hadn't been happy for Kisame's victory for more than 10 seconds, when he felt a very terrifying aura enveloping the entire pirate ship. Naruto's feet unconsciously softened a little. This was a physical instinctive reaction, not something he could control. His little face suddenly changed. His face was full of incredulous purple. What's going on? Layers of cold sweat had already seeped from Naruto's forehead. And he watched as some of the weaker people on the ship were directly stunned. The sailors on the ship, the survivors of the Uchiha clan, Shikamaru, Chaji, Fu, Hinata and others. Under the cover of this terrifying aura, they couldn't hold on for even a second, and they fainted. On the entire ship, the only ones who could stand were Whitebeard, Kakashi, Conan, Naruto, Sasuke, Gaara, Shizui, Izumi, Fuashi, Orochimaru, Tsunade, Sasori. Among them, Naruto, Sasuke, Izumi, Fuashi, and Gaara could only barely stand. The intense conqueror's hockey made them sweat profusely. To be honest, everyone on the Whitebeard pirates basically hadn't really felt the impact of conqueror's hockey. Because Whitebeard wouldn't use conqueror's hockey on his own people, would he? Today, now, they felt it. And the next moment, what came along was Big Mom's scream. That kind of sound that directly strikes the soul, makes people shudder, as if it can evoke the most fearful emotions in the human heart. This is conqueror's hockey. This is not Pop's conqueror's hockey, it's someone else's conqueror's hockey. Kakashi was the first to react. He incredulously looked back. At this moment, they hadn't even had time to salvage Kisame and Cracker, and suddenly such a change happened. It really caught people off guard. It's a woman's voice. Hee, what a loud voice. It's formed a kind of sound wave attack that directly strikes the soul. Orochimaru's forehead was sweating a bit. He felt a great sense of oppression from the other's conqueror's hockey. Sasori muttered in a low voice, what the hell is this place? Why are there so many monsters? Conan's face also changed. She murmured, the person who comes is very strong. Kisame, lying on the sea surface, also changed his face. In fact, hearing that scream, Kisame already had a guess. Could it be Pop's old friend has returned? The executives on Biscuit Island who were not stunned by the Conqueror's hockey, their faces were filled with both horror and ecstasy. The ecstasy was because they knew reinforcements had arrived, and a super big shot had arrived. The horror was because of their fear of Big Mom. Because they had indeed lost to the Whitebeard pirates on Biscuit Island this time, they couldn't imagine what kind of punishment Big Mom would give them. Among all the people present, perhaps only Whitebeard could still keep calm. Gorrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrr boom. Whitebeard's Conqueror's Haki also burst out in an instant, and it was a full-on burst. The two Conqueror's Haki collided in an instant. The air was flickering with a lot of electric arcs, the sea below was stirring up waves, and the atmosphere was also shaking violently. The people on the ship saw the collision of Conqueror's Haki for the first time. Hey, is this a joke? Forcing herself to bear such a terrifying oppressive feeling, Tsunade inadvertently looked up at the sky. The sky is torn apart. She was dumbfounded, her face full of shock. You can see that the thick clouds in the sky thousands of meters high were torn apart by the collision of the two Conqueror's Haki, forming a clear dividing line in the middle. Through that divide, you can see the blue sky above. On the other side, on the Big Mom pirates, the burst of Whitebeard's Conqueror's Haki caused a group of people on the ship to change their faces at the same time. Conqueror's Haki? And it's on par with Mom's Conqueror's Haki? The person who exclaimed in surprise was one of the three suite commanders, Charlotte Snack. He is also the Minister of Explosives of the Big Mom pirates. His hair was braided into the shape of a gourd, he was very fat, had a long nose, was wrapped in very strict clothes, and carried a very large samurai sword. At this moment, even Kitakuri couldn't keep calm. Could it really be Whitebeard? Is he really still alive? Is the news fake? Is the live broadcast also fake? Mama. On the whole ship, no one knew the familiar feeling of this Conqueror's Haki better than Big Mom. Big Mom's greasy and fat face showed a bit of shock, a bit of surprise, and more of a for Emperor's Haki. I didn't expect you to still be alive. Whitebeard. After she said this, it was confirmed that Whitebeard was still alive. The entire ship of the Big Mom pirates was instantly silent. Everyone was immersed in the shock of what Big Mom said. Whitebeard, Big Mom, the two Conqueror's Haki competed in this sea for a full half-minute. The waves stirred up by the sea were already more than 10 meters high. The strong wind was blowing constantly, making people's faces a bit sore. Suddenly, Whitebeard's hand holding Murakami re-tightened. The hearty smile on his face was extremely wild and arrogant. His already full-on Conqueror's Haki unexpectedly increased a few more points. Whitebeard's Conqueror's Haki began to suppress Big Mom's Conqueror's Haki, and at a speed visible to the naked eye, forced Big Mom's Conqueror's Haki to retreat. With a boom sound that seemed to appear in the world, an invisible shockwave swept across an unknown number of miles. Whitebeard's Conqueror's Haki actually forced Big Mom's Conqueror's Haki back to its original point. On the pirate ship of the Big Mom pirates, some weak pirates were stunned on the spot by the two Haki before they could react. When a large group of people from the Big Mom pirates fell down, the two Conqueror's Haki finally cancelled each other out. In just a brief encounter, Whitebeard demonstrated his Conqueror's Haki that suppressed Big Mom. Mama, this is really annoying. Big Mom glanced at the group of people who had fallen behind her, then looked distantly at the Moby Dick. Whitebeard, he really experienced a summit war a few days ago. How does it feel like he is now in his prime, completely uninjured? A minister was dumbfounded, and was scared into a cold sweat by Whitebeard's Conqueror's Haki. One of the three suite commanders, Charlotte Smoothie, with a calm wheat-colored face, said, Whitebeard is still alive, such an incredible thing can happen, he didn't get injured in the war at the top, what's so strange about that? Indeed, compared to Whitebeard still being alive. Getting injured is indeed not worth mentioning. Kitakuri took a deep breath, his eyes shadowed. Whitebeard, the world's strongest man, indeed not so easy to be killed. I just don't know, how did he survive? But thinking about it, there are so many strange devil fruit abilities in the sea. Perhaps, there is a person in the Whitebeard crew who has a very strange fruit ability, which saved Whitebeard. That doesn't seem too outrageous. Snack exhaled a turbid breath, he said gloomily, the old guy from the old era doesn't stay honestly in the coffin, what does he want to do when he comes out again? Who knows? Smoothie shrugged, maybe after today, a big news will sweep the entire sea, the whole world will be shocked. But now? Smoothie looked at Big Mom. Mom seems to be provoked by Whitebeard. Big Mom was indeed a bit angry. The Whitebeard pirates broke into her territory and wreaked havoc on the island in her territory. She appeared and caught one of them, and that bastard Whitebeard even dared to use Conqueror's Haki to stun the people on her ship. In Big Mom's eyes, this is already a serious provocation. Mama, Whitebeard, the Marine didn't kill you, Do you want to die in my hands? Big Mom's voice was not loud, it clearly couldn't reach that far, but Whitebeard heard it. Gorrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrr me, maybe I will give you this opportunity, Gorara." Whitebeard's response was also not loud, but Big Mom heard it. This is the top-level observation hockey of both sides. Mama. Big Mom laughed angrily, "I hope you don't let me dismantle your old bones." Gorara. Whitebeard arrogantly retorted, "Do I need to chop off your arms and legs to help you lose weight?" Although the two sides were very far apart, their gazes collided in midair, and an indescribable solemn killing intent began to permeate. A very strong smell of gunpowder, as long as it is a person, can feel that something is wrong. Zeus! Big Mom roared, a cloud of thunder came out from nowhere, and there were even clear facial features on the cloud. This is one of the hummies created by Big Mom's devil fruit ability. Zeus! Her soul fruit ability can give souls to dead or alive things. Mama! Zeus responded excitedly. "Go with me to dismantle that crescent-bearded bastard's old bones." "Okay, Mama." Big Mom directly jumped onto Zeus's back, stepping on the thundercloud, and Zeus lifted her plump body. "Napoleon!" Big Mom called out again. "I am here, Mama." Her pink pirate hat on her head popped up, the sword blade and hilt came out of the hat at the same time, and were grasped in one hand by Big Mom. You can see that there are facial features on the sword blade. "And me, Mom, and me, Prometheus." A ball of fire couldn't wait to come out, directly climbed onto the back of Big Mom's head. Suddenly, Big Mom's hair burst into flames. The people on the Big Mom pirates ship who saw this were all very surprised. Mom actually summoned 3 special hummies directly. Snack was shocked, that is to say, Mom is ready to go all out. Is Whitebeard, an old man from the old era, really that powerful? Smoothie said, "The world's strongest man is not a title that Whitebeard gave himself, but a nickname given to him by the strong people of the sea. No matter how old this man is, he is still a person standing at the top level of the world." Katakuri glanced at Snack, and reminded him expressionlessly, "You should have some respect for such a strong person, your contempt. Sooner or later, it will harm you." Meanwhile, on the Moby Dick, Whitebeard's observation hockey had already sensed that Big Mom was rushing towards them, and the smile on his face grew stronger. This woman is just like when she was young, she can't calm down. Whitebeard shouted to Kakashi and others, "Stupid sons, suck all the people who have fainted into your space, and then take them as far away as possible." Whitebeard was also itching for a fight. When the 4 emperors meet and trash talk each other, it's basically a fixed process. Whitebeard grinned, "This woman is very strong." Hearing Whitebeard's words, Kakashi's face became serious. He knew that Pops wouldn't let them hide far away for no reason. The only explanation is, the other party and Pops are at the same level of strength. Even Pops can't guarantee that in the upcoming battle, he can keep these sons and daughters alive. "Alright, Pops." Kakashi immediately did so. And by the way, he sucked Kisame and Cracker. Chapter 339, Roaring. Morgans. The Kingdom of Power and the Kingdom of Tyranny. Tremor is Kakashi took a group of people to hide on Biscuit Island. At this moment, he looked back at the distant sea and could vaguely see a black dot floating in midair. If he didn't guess wrong, that little black dot should be Pop's old friend, right? Can the other party fly? "Hey! White-haired bastard, quickly return Mr. Cracker to us." Just then, an officer of the Big Mom pirates immediately shouted at Kakashi with a curved knife. He had seen with his own eyes that Kakashi had fished their Mr. Cracker up. "Sorry, he is a prisoner of our Whitebeard pirates, we can't just give him back to you." Kakashi glanced at this pirate officer with his dead fish eyes. "If you want to save him." Kakashi formed a seal with one hand, and said expressionlessly, "Then you have to defeat me first." The pirate officer with the curved knife immediately gritted his teeth, "Damn it. Our Queen of Tato Land is about to take action soon, I hope you won't regret it then." Kakashi raised a smile at the corner of his mouth, he said, "Coincidentally, the captain of our Whitebeard pirates is also about to take action." Just as he was entangled with these pirate officers, Big Mom in the distance had already approached the Moby Dick. Big Mom looked at Whitebeard from afar. At this distance she could already see Whitebeard's figure. Mama, this is really unexpected." Big Mom originally thought that Whitebeard was dead, so she brought her subordinates to seize the territory of the Whitebeard pirates. Who would have thought that this man would come back to life? But compared to the subordinates in the Big Mom pirate crew, Big Mom herself, as the captain, had no fear of Whitebeard at all. Because both of them were on the same level, both were known as the 4 emperors. Don't look at Whitebeard carrying the title of the world's strongest man, but Big Mom didn't fear Whitebeard at all. "Whitebeard! When Moby Dick was only 200 meters away, Big Mom, standing on the thundercloud Zeus, let out a ferocious shout. "This is not a place for you to run wild." As soon as her voice fell, Big Mom tightly gripped the hilt of Napoleon, her plump arms trembling. Elbow spear. Armament hockey had already covered Napoleon, and Big Mom even wrapped Conqueror's hockey around Napoleon, causing the sword body to flicker with black arcs. Sovereign blade. She let out a ferocious laugh and slashed at Moby Dick with a single sword. The visible slash shockwave flew forward in a penetrating form, its speed so fast that it made Whitebeard squint slightly. Where Sovereign blade passed, the seawater below automatically parted to both sides. It was pushed open by the force of the slash. You could even see the coral at the bottom of the sea. Gorrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrr blade was about to touch Moby Dick, he unceremoniously slashed out. Murakami-giri was also wrapped in armament hockey and Conqueror's hockey. Boom. 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 The first collision of Conqueror's hockey plus armament hockey caused a circle of visible surging shockwaves. The shockwaves, like wind blades, swept in all directions. The hull of Moby Dick seemed to be a bit shorter, and the shockwave lifted up waves that were tens to hundreds of meters high. Whitebeard's arms suddenly exerted force, and with a single sword, he deflected Big Mom's Sovereign Blade, and Sovereign Blade grazed Moby Dick and flew out towards the back. Bang! A group of people on Biscuit Island watched in astonishment as the shockwave from Sovereign Blade instantly pierced through two mountains on the island. They also watched as these two mountains collapsed directly. Dust filled the sky, almost covering half of the sky over Biscuit Island. Gulp. A subordinate of the Big Mom pirate crew swallowed a mouthful of saliva, his face full of astonishment. Too terrifying. Kakashi looked at the two collapsed mountains behind him, his pupils slightly contracted. It looks like an effortless attack. Tsunade murmured to herself. She's too reckless, doesn't she fear affecting the people on her own territory? Orochimaru had a smile on his lips. Hee. These two are monsters. On the other side, seeing that a single strike did not cause any damage to Whitebeard, Big Mom immediately jumped up from Zeus and leaped towards Moby Dick with her plump body. Prometheus crawled on Napoleon above her head, and Napoleon in Big Mom's hand was already burning with raging flames. Napoleon also changed from the shape of a double-edged greatsword to the shape of a huge scimitar. Whitebeard, you don't look like you're at death's door at all. Big Mom held up her sword and laughed ferociously. Emperor Sword, Sovereign Edge. Facing Big Mom's attack alone, Whitebeard's face also showed a ferocious smile, and the blade of Murakami-giri was already covered with a wave of vibration. Roar. Whitebeard roared, raised his sword and slashed upwards. Napoleon and Murakami-giri paused for a moment when they were about a meter apart. Because this was the conqueror's hockey of both sides competing. Whitebeard's arm muscles were knotted, and his veins were bulging. Big Mom's arms trembled. The conqueror's hockey of both sides intertwined for a full 10 seconds before they collapsed, and the blade and blade collided at zero distance. The harsh metallic sound burst out with dazzling sparks. The Moby Dick under Whitebeard's feet made an unbearable creaking sound, and several decks under his feet also shattered with it. If the Moby Dick hadn't undergone a major transformation before, I'm afraid the whole ship would have to be overhauled after this hit. Gorrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrr brute force suddenly burst out, surpassing Big Mom in the contest of strength. He directly chopped Big Mom's plump body and flew it out. The vibration power wrapped around the blade of Murakamagiri also began to burst out instantly, and the entire atmosphere in front was filled with dense vibration cracks. Zeus in midair was scared and hurriedly flew over to catch Big Mom. As a result, Zeus also underestimated Whitebeard's brute force, and it was almost knocked into the sea by the force of Big Mom's flying out. What an outrageous brute old man. Big Mom stood on Zeus again. The constantly vibrating atmosphere did not cause her any harm. After all, her body is known as the iron balloon. Bang! Suddenly, Whitebeard jumped off the Moby Dick and confronted Big Mom in the air with the moonwalk. Whitebeard, with a ferocious smile on his face, didn't hesitate to punch the atmosphere in front of him. The dense vibration cracks roared out like a blue dragon rushing towards Big Mom. Mama! Mother's flame! Big Mom also unceremoniously returned the attack. The surging flames instantly turned into a sea of raging fire. The vibration force and the flames collided violently, causing a big explosion that could blow up a small town. Big Mom stepped on Zeus's door in fire, ignoring the vibration and rushing towards Whitebeard, slashing down at Whitebeard's head with a knife. This time, the blade was wrapped not in flames, but in dazzling thunder. Mother's thunder. With a roar and scream from Big Mom, a large amount of thunder enveloped Whitebeard, and dense electric arcs covered the entire sea area. But at this moment, a terrifying slash that could tear the sky apart, tore thousands of thunders to pieces. The slash went straight to Big Mom. Big Mom's pupils shrank, but it was too late to dodge. The slash hit Big Mom's chest on the spot, causing a wave of waves, and she was slashed and flew to a height of hundreds of meters. The moves of the giant tribe are not only known to you. Gorrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrr slashed towards the blue sky, elbow spear hegemony. Boom. The shockwave of Whitebeard slash pierced the sky, causing Big Mom, who was slashed and flew to the high sky, to widen her eyes. Big Mom quickly wrapped her arms in armament hockey and crossed them in front of her. Obviously, Whitebeard's sword made her a little unconfident in her body's defense. When hegemony collided with Big Mom's arms, the rolling clouds in the sky were all scattered and shattered, and a visible shockwave caused gusts of wind. This also made the Biscuit Island below feel like a typhoon had passed, blowing the people on the island to stand firm. Even the main ship of the Big Mom pirates in the distance was severely affected, and the whole ship appeared so weak in front of the rolling waves. A group of pirate executives on the ship were shocked by the waves. Is this the battle between the four emperors? Smoothie no longer doubted whether Whitebeard was the real Whitebeard. If he had the power to contend with Big Mom, who else could it be but Whitebeard? Even as one of the three sweet commanders, she was sweating profusely at this moment. Fortunately, they are fighting at sea. If they were fighting on any island, that island would have been devastated. Katakuri squinted his eyes, looking at the two figures in the distant sky. Whitebeard should be using moonwalk, right? Using such a physically demanding taijutsu to fight with Big Mom in the air, is this the world's strongest man's confidence in himself? Although he is one of the three sweet commanders of the Big Mom pirates, this does not prevent Katakuri from admiring Whitebeard. The terrifying aftermath of the battle between Whitebeard and Big Mom could be felt throughout the entire Tado land. Among them, a seagull was startled awake by the commotion. What's going on? What's going on? Morgans hurriedly walked out of the bedroom of the hotel, looking up at the sky in a daze. As one of the kings of the underworld, the president of the World Economic News Agency, Morgans appeared in Tado land naturally because he smelled big news in advance. After all, Whitebeard died at Marine headquarters, so the Big Mom pirates, one of the four emperors, would definitely not let go of the territory of the Whitebeard pirates. At that time, the Big Mom pirates might have a big battle with the Whitebeard pirates. Perhaps this battle will cause the Whitebeard pirates to be completely annihilated in the long river of history. After all, in Morgan's view, how can the Whitebeard pirates fight the Big Mom pirates without Whitebeard? This kind of big news smell made Morgans arrive at Tado land early. By then, as long as there is any movement, he can get the news at the first time, and write the news report at the first time. And today, now, Morgans found. He seemed to have really hit the big news. That is. He stared wide-eyed at the blue dome in the distance, and with just a pair of naked eyes, he could see the raging flames and thunder in the distant blue dome. He could even see the dense atmospheric cracks spreading in the distant sky. And there, thunderous explosions would sound from time to time. Anyone who is not a fool knows that something has happened in Tado land. Newsbird. Newsbird. Morgan suddenly reacted. He hurriedly called a few newsbirds, and shouted at them, "Each bird carries a filming den mushi, fly over there and take the picture for me. Wait, you also bring a live broadcast den mushi, broadcast the picture to me." Morgans didn't know where he pulled out a bunch of telephone receivers, and stuffed them to each newsbird respectively. Since the incident happened in the air, his reporters definitely couldn't get there. Only the newsbirds can go to shoot. Caw. Caw. As a result, those newsbirds were scared to tremble by the scene in the distance. They didn't dare to approach there at all. Morgans was so angry that he wanted to go into battle himself. Unfortunately, he, a zone-type bird fruit, albatross fruit ability user. He just can't fly. This is big news, big news. Can't you birds have a little professional spirit? Morgans gritted his teeth and could only endure the pain and shout, "Raise your salary." "Can I raise your salary?" "As long as you can shoot the picture for me, not only will your salary increase by 200%, each bird will also have a generous bonus. 1,000,000 Baileys." As a stingy black-hearted boss, for Morgans to make such a promise is undoubtedly cutting flesh from his heart. But in order to get the first-hand big news, he can only spend a lot of money. A group of newsbirds actually understood what he said. They looked at each other, and flew towards there one after another. With money, birds will sell their lives for you. At this moment, the battle between Whitebeard and Big Mom had entered an intense phase of white-hot intensity in less than 10 minutes. Both sides were going back and forth. Roars and screams accompanied each other, thunder and flames shone together, slashes and vibrations danced together. The Biscuit Island, which was closest to the battle between the two sides, was suffering an unprecedented devastation. Even if Whitebeard and Big Mom intentionally or unintentionally moved the center of the battle away from Biscuit Island, the aftermath of the battle between the four emperors, no matter how far away, was no joke. As Big Mom let out a sharp roar and slashed at Whitebeard, who dodged, the slash entwined with flames and thunder fell on the sea. Chapter 3, Captain. The ship is ready. The sound of the wind rushing past his ears was deafening as Naruto's eyes snapped open. Under the influence of the red chakra, his eyes turned into vertical slits, his fangs protruded and became sharp, and the whisker marks on his face grew rougher. At this moment, Naruto looked like a beast in human form. But strangely, even though his face became ferocious, his will was not affected at all. He was still Naruto and did not lose control. Above the valley, Jiraiya stood on a large tree, watching as Naruto's body emitted red chakra. His weathered face instantly showed shock and joy. Did this kid succeed? Below the valley, the red chakra enveloped Naruto's body. The howling wind could not cause any harm. What had felt like knives cutting his face before now felt like a gentle breeze. I can feel it, that chakra. Naruto's eyes lit up. Without hesitation, he bit his right thumb, drawing blood, and quickly formed hand seals. Boar, dog, bird, monkey, ram. Summoning jutsu. Naruto pressed his right hand into the air. With a shout and a massive consumption of chakra, he could clearly sense a huge body appearing in the smoke. Boom. Where is this place? 4 loud bangs echoed as a powerful voice pulled Naruto out of his intense chakra state. Naruto landed on a large, dark red body. It still hurt a bit, but it was much better than hitting the ground. I'm saved. Naruto breathed a sigh of relief. Awesome. It's huge. He looked at the massive dark red back beneath him. Although he couldn't see it completely, he could tell there was no tail, which meant, I did it. Naruto shouted excitedly. At this moment, Naruto was truly excited. Not only had he extracted Kurama's chakra, but he had also summoned such a large toad. Even the pervy sage would have to look at him differently now. Jiraiya indeed looked at Naruto differently, but not because he had extracted Kurama's chakra. It was because this kid dared to mess around on Gamabunta's head. Except for Minato, Gamabunta didn't respect anyone, not even Jiraiya. Brat. Sure enough, the next second, Gamabunta exploded in anger. The toad arched its body, and Naruto almost uncontrollably fell, rolling towards Gamabunta's huge face. When he finally stopped rolling, he sat up, holding his head, and saw a toad face almost as big as Kurama's in front of him. Do you know whose head you're shouting on? Gamabunta's huge frog eyes glared at Naruto, filled with undisguised anger. This is the head of the toad boss, Gamabunta. Naruto froze. The frog face in front of him gave him a completely different feeling compared to seeing Kurama. If seeing Kurama's huge body was more about fear, then facing Gamabunta, Naruto felt more amused. Yes, he saw amusement in Gamabunta's face. Gamabunta frowned. This kid looked familiar, and this red chakra, those eyes, wait, what's with this kid's expression? Gamabunta suddenly felt annoyed. You idiot kid. The voice was loud, and the powerful breath from his mouth blew Naruto away like a storm. Luckily, Naruto quickly grabbed Gamabunta's pipe, or he would have been blown away. Naruto clung to the edge of the pipe, glancing at the abyss below, and swallowed hard. If he fell down, he would probably be done for. Although most of the chakra he used was Kurama's, Naruto's own chakra was almost exhausted. Summoning again might not succeed. In the sealed space, Kurama lay on the ground watching what was happening outside. Naruto, just like in the original story, was clashing with Gamabunta. However, when Gamabunta first appeared, he wasn't very likable. It wasn't until the second appearance during the Chunin exams that people realized he was a tough guy with a soft heart. Moreover, the most important thing was that Gamabunta probably confirmed at that time that Naruto was the son of the fourth Hokage, Minato no Mikage, which led to him helping Naruto countless times later. Although he kept calling Naruto kid, he actually cared a lot about him. Kurama. Naruto shouted loudly, his back deformed by the wind pressure on Gamabunta's back. Give me some more chakra. He could feel that he was about to reach his limit, his chakra almost exhausted. The only way he could think of now was to borrow some more chakra from Kurama. No. Kurama watched with a smile. His tone was a bit arrogant, sounding like he was unwilling, but actually, Kurama knew that if he gave Naruto his chakra after Naruto's chakra was exhausted, even if Kurama didn't intentionally influence Naruto, Naruto wouldn't be able to suppress the negative emotions in Kurama's chakra. Naruto was too weak now. Naruto's voice dragged on for a long time, his face covered in tears, snot, and saliva, his voice indistinguishable between crying and begging. I really can't hold on anymore. Although he was reckless, this guy had some self-awareness. You need to believe in yourself. Kurama's face was full of amusement. You jerk. Naruto was infuriated by Kurama's tone. Damn it. Even if you don't lend me chakra, I can still make it. Just watch. Ah, the sealed space is so quiet. Kurama pretended not to hear. Naruto, the toad is ready. Damn it. Naruto didn't understand what Kurama meant by that, but he could sense the malice in his words. Kurama watched everything happening outside as if he were watching a movie, from Naruto's stubborn attempt to conquer Game Ubuntu to Game Ubuntu's reluctant serious response. In the end, Naruto's bet with Game Ubuntu ended in failure. Anyway, Naruto passed out. Whether he won or lost, it was up to Game Ubuntu. The moon had climbed into the sky at some point, and the stars filled the sky, shining like guiding lights on Game Ubuntu and Naruto. Hidden Leaf Village was quiet at night, except for the hospital still in operation, with few places still lit. As Game Ubuntu landed with a loud noise, all the doctors and nurses were attracted by the rising dust. They looked at the empty front yard with some surprise and confusion. As the dust settled, 2 huge toad footprints were imprinted on the ground in the not-so-small front yard, and Naruto's figure lay quietly within them, his face still smiling as if he had dreamed of something happy. The doctors carried Naruto into the hospital. They immediately saw why the child had fainted. But that wasn't important. In the dark, starless sealed space, only shadows covered the inside of the gate, making Kurama's figure faintly visible. Bang! Kurama gently patted the gate, making a noise. Hey, kid, the flower of hope has bloomed. How long do you plan to sleep here? Outside the gate, Naruto's figure lay in the water, the waves gently lapping at his mud-stained face. Kurama's noise was loud enough to wake Naruto. His eyes slowly opened, staring blankly at the ceiling of the underground waterway. A drop of water fell from the ceiling onto his face, the cold feeling instantly waking Naruto. He sprang up from the ground, sitting in the water and looking around in confusion. Did I win? Unfortunately, you lost. Kurama laughed sinisterly from behind. Huh? Naruto turned his head, dumbly touching the back of his head. Then, as if realizing something, he angrily slapped the water. Damn it, if I had enough chakra, I would have won. After saying that, Naruto got up angrily and looked at Kurama. If you had lent me chakra then, I would have won for sure. Indeed, if Naruto had had chakra at that time, with his determination, as long as he didn't pass out, and Game Ubuntu didn't really go all out, he might have won. Unfortunately, the last shadow clone jutsu he used out of stubbornness left him exhausted, with not a drop of chakra left, and he passed out. Humphrey. Kurama grinned, pointing at Naruto outside the gate. Even if you won with my help, would that be your own strength? Naruto was stunned. Kurama continued. If you can't even see your own strength and end up relying on me when you can't handle things, do you think you can still grow? Naruto was stunned by Kurama's sudden outburst. He scratched the back of his head, his confidence waning. But aren't you a part of my strength? Who told you that? Kurama raised his chin disdainfully. Kid, although I do have some fondness for you, I haven't acknowledged you yet. Right now, you're just a reckless brat. And if you think I'm part of your strength, let me ask you, do you really trust me? Kurama stared at Naruto, his blood-red eyes reflecting Naruto's image. Naruto froze in place. Probably confused by Kurama's question, Naruto remained silent for a long time before slowly shaking his head. I don't trust you. Yes. Kurama's expression showed that this was the answer he expected. Then how dare you ask me to lend you chakra? Rent? I can give you the rent I've collected so far, but what if I want to move out now? Would you agree? No. Naruto didn't need to answer for Kurama to know. He was the monster that almost destroyed Hidden Leaf Village 12 years ago. Even Naruto wouldn't be foolish enough to let him out, even if he claimed to have no interest in Hidden Leaf Village now. Humans and monsters can talk, but monsters won't turn into humans. The night sky outside was still brilliant, shining through the window onto Naruto's hospital bed, as if covering him with a layer of silver gauze. The waterway in the sealed space remained dark, with a prison gate standing in the shadows. Outside the gate was Naruto, inside was the Nine Tails. One was silent, the other was smiling. Chapter 340, Worldwide Live Broadcast. Shaking the world. Whitebeard is still alive. The fierce battle between Whitebeard and Big Mom lasted for more than an hour, and neither side had yet to determine a winner. And both sides looked in very good condition, there was no sign of physical decline at all, and the fighting spirit did not weaken at all. The seawater below them had long been scorched to boiling by the fire and thunder, and the seabed was also shaken out of numerous canyons by the vibration force. All the marine life within an unknown number of miles of the sea was killed by the aftermath of the battle. Not far away, Biscuit Island was also experiencing countless man-made disasters in just 1 hour. Hurricanes, tsunamis, earthquakes, fires, thunder. This led to the executives of the Big Mom pirate crew on the island not caring about confronting Kakashi and the others. One by one, they hurriedly ran to save people. After all, Whitebeard had previously stunned hundreds of people, and there were tens of thousands of residents on Biscuit Island. The Big Mom pirate crew, rather than being a pirate crew, might as well say that they have truly formed a kingdom. The responsibilities of these pirates are not to go out and plunder, their duties are exactly the same as the soldiers of a normal kingdom. Because, this place, is known as the Whole Cake Island. Kakashi and the others are fully focused on the distant battle. The duel between two legendary figures on the high seas leaves their eyes dazzled. He's too strong. Sasori found that his plan to create an anti-Whitebeard puppet had become indefinitely postponed, because he didn't expect this man to be so outrageously strong. He thought he had reached the limit of Whitebeard, but he didn't expect that when Whitebeard really went all out, it would be so earth-shattering. Not only Whitebeard, but also Whitebeard's opponent, also has a power that can be described as earth-shattering. The movements between the two sides in the battle are like natural disasters. Even a small aftermath of a battle is many times more powerful than an A-rank ninjutsu. Sasori really couldn't figure out what kind of superior performance a puppet should have in order to be on par with such a strong person. He was a bit confused. He found that he couldn't see the end of the road of art. He's so strong. So strong that it makes people tremble. Sasuke's fingertips were trembling slightly, and sweat had already soaked his back. He couldn't help but take a deep breath. If he also had such power, what would he fear Itachi Uchiha for? He probably only needs one hand to kill that man, right? Naruto, on the other hand, was somewhat worried for Pops. Because Naruto had never seen anyone make Pops go all out. The key is that the pink-haired old woman seems to be younger than Pops. Kisame wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. His injuries had already healed at this time, because Kakashi had lent him a bit of tailed beast chakra. The tailed beast chakra was swallowed by Saimada and then transferred to Kisame, allowing his injuries to recover quickly. No wonder Pops told us to stay away. Kisame planted Saimada on the ground and murmured to himself. If anyone gets close to the center of the battle between Pops and that woman, even I can't guarantee that I can survive 100%. At the same time, in a place unknown to everyone, a group of newsbirds were struggling to fly forward against the storm. This group of newsbirds naturally belonged to Morgan's staff. Some of them held the denden mushi in their beaks, some carried the denden mushi on their backs, and some held the denden mushi with their two bird claws. Occasionally, a slash would fly out of the center of the storm, tearing several unlucky newsbirds into pieces. But fortunately, there were quite a few of them. A large group of newsbirds rushed forward, and there would always be a few that could get close to the front, as long as they could find a relatively safe high-altitude area. In an island within the world government, Morgans was staring at a broadcast denden mushi, rubbing his wings anxiously, pacing back and forth impatiently. It's been so long, why hasn't the picture been broadcast yet? Those stinky birds wouldn't have been scared to desert before the battle, would they? Just as Morgans was muttering to himself, the broadcast denden mushi in front of him suddenly made a sound. Blow 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 blow. Hearing the sound of the denden mushi, Morgans shivered on the spot. This sound was undoubtedly a heavenly sound to him. He quickly stepped forward 2 steps, slapped the button on the back of the denden mushi with his palm. The 2 eyes of the denden mushi blinked twice, and immediately projected a light curtain, projecting the picture on the white wall in front. I see it. I see it. Ha ha ha. There's a picture. Morgans was overjoyed. He hurriedly stared at the projected picture, trying to see what was going on. The next second, he saw the figure of Charlotte Linlin, the captain of the Big Mom pirates, appearing in the midst of the raging fire and thunder. That was one of the 4 emperors. Is it Big Mom? Is she fighting with someone? Morgans was so excited that his eyes were full of bloodshot. Such a terrifying battle scene. Who can fight her like this? A Marine Admiral? Or Kaido? Could it be Red-Haired Shanks? Or Morgan suddenly froze. He was like a duck whose neck was tightly choked by someone, his mouth wide open and unable to utter a word. He stood there for a good few seconds before he reacted. He stared incredulously at the projected picture, looking at the blurry figure that was crossing swords with Big Mom in midair. A name suddenly appeared in his mind, making Morgan's face full of inexplicable shock. What? Morgans couldn't believe what he saw in the picture. He was dumbfounded and his voice trembled. How? How is this possible? How is this possible? Whitebeard! He exclaimed in an incredible way, shouting out this title. He's still alive. I actually saw Whitebeard. This is a living Whitebeard. Whitebeard without missing arms and broken legs. In Morgan's mind, it seemed as if countless thunderbolts had fallen, and he was bombarded on the spot. Because in his impression, Whitebeard was already dead. He had just written a sensational news article for him a while ago. The result was that in the blink of an eye, he was told that Whitebeard was alive again. Big news. Morgans murmured in a daze, "This is big news, this is big news comparable to the Summit War." His slightly dazed eyes gradually lit up, absolutely big news. The kind that can shock the world. Morgans took a deep breath. After accepting the fact that Whitebeard was still alive, he began to think about how he could use this big news. Is it to write a news article immediately, and then spread a newspaper all over the world the next day? No. Morgans clapped his hands together. He was even excited to be a little crazy. I want to broadcast all this live. Just like the Summit War that was broadcast live a while ago. Then write a news article, spread the newspaper all over the world. In the end. Only then can it really sell well. Coincidentally, he handed a live broadcast dendenmushi to a news bird, and that news bird just happened to be able to film all this. Morgans hurriedly took out another dendenmushi. He began to contact the major branches of the newspaper. What he wanted to do was simple: contact all the branches of the World Economic News Agency, and let them do everything possible to receive the signal from this live broadcast dendenmushi. Morgans also knew that not all branches could receive the live broadcast signal. After all, if it's too far away, it can't be received. But even if only the people of the New World know that Whitebeard is still alive, that's enough. With Morgan's operations that made him sweat profusely, all branches of the World Economic News Agency located in the New World are operating rapidly. Every branch manager is trying their best to receive the signal from the live broadcast dendenmushi. New World, Dressrosa Kingdom. How's it going? Did you receive the signal? A branch manager hurriedly shouted to the reporters and editors underground, "Mr. Morgans has given a death order. If any branch can't receive the signal and can't broadcast the picture, all the people in the entire branch will be buried alive." Mr. Branch Manager. The live broadcast dendenmushi is really too far away to receive the signal needs. Mr. Branch Manager, we received it. We received it. This news agency branch is located in the most bustling and lively street of Dressrosa Kingdom. The people of the news agency set up a huge screen in the most conspicuous place, attracting a large crowd of onlookers. When the broadcast picture appeared on the screen, although the distance was too far and the picture seemed a bit blurry and frame dropping, but you can still barely see the specific image. Why are so many people gathering here? Baby 5, carrying a sword and a fire gun, was passing by this place with a cigarette in her mouth. She curiously squeezed in to take a look. She looked up at the picture on the screen and was stunned on the spot. This is a live broadcast picture? The fat woman above. Huh? Hiss. Baby 5 gasped, "Big Mom?" In the New World, there are too few people who don't know Big Mom, not to mention that Baby 5 is an officer of the Don Quixote family. Before Baby 5 had time to calm down, she suddenly opened her mouth wide, and the cigarette in her mouth fell to the ground as if she didn't know. Even without her speaking, the crowd around her was already exclaiming in horror, "Whitebeard?" Egghead Island. "Doctor, it seems we've caught a very interesting live broadcast signal. One of Vegapunk's 6 clones. Number 3 Flare Edison, held a special dendenmushi and found Vegapunk." "Oh? Vegapunk is a strange old man with a big tongue. If you throw him on the street, I'm afraid no one would know he is Vegapunk." Vegapunk asked in doubt, "Broadcast it for me to see?" Number 3 pressed a button on the dendenmushi, and the broadcast picture immediately appeared in a virtual projection. The picture was very clear. You can tell that the technology content is much higher than that of the World Economic News Agency just by looking at it. "This woman isn't his Big Mom?" Vegapunk was taken aback. "Huh? That one is." Vegapunk suddenly noticed the man fighting with Big Mom. "Whitebeard? Isn't he dead?" Vegapunk naturally knew about the war at the top, so he was a bit shocked. "A robot? No. It doesn't look like a robot, nor does it look like a clone. After all, who else in the world has such technology besides me? So, Whitebeard is really still alive. Is this scientific?" Vegapunk's mind was spinning fast. He was considering all the possibilities. But the live broadcast of the Summit War is real. It can't be that the Whitebeard at the Summit War was a fake, right? Or did Whitebeard master the science of resurrection? This is definitely a big news that can shake the whole world. Vegapunk touched his chin. "My good friend Dragon, he must also want to get the first-hand information, right?" Number 3. Doctor. Broadcast the picture to the whole world. Remember to set up several layers of tracking interference. Don't let the world government detect that we did it. Okay. With the help of Vegapunk's black technology, the live broadcast signal can not only be received in various places in the New World, but also in the entire sea, and even in the Red Line. Meanwhile, Marine Headquarters. The Summit War had just ended not long ago, And Sengoku didn't rush to resign, because he still needed to do the finishing work, at least to settle the wounded, and to arrange the compensation for the sacrificed Marines. In this way, he can resign from the position of Fleet Admiral with peace of mind. At this moment, Sengoku was in a tent. There was no other way. The entire Marine headquarters had been destroyed like never before. His office had long been a ruin. He could only use a tent as his temporary office. Sengoku-san. It's bad. Something terrible has happened. But at this moment, a man wearing sunglasses, with thick lips and green hair, rushed into the tent in a hurry. Brand new? Sengoku, who was wrapped in bandages, lifted his tired eyelids and asked the meeting king. What happened? He had already experienced the war at the top. At this moment, Sengoku was calm about everything, big or small. Sengoku-san. Brand new didn't know how to organize his language. He could only say this. You should come out and take a look, something big has happened. Sengoku was taken aback. So urgent? Could it be that the beast pirates are coming? It can't be that Garp's mentality has collapsed and chosen to betray the Marines, can it? Sengoku followed Brand new outside. He could see a group of Marines in front of him surrounding a piece of canvas, and it seemed that there was a den-den-mushi projecting an image on it. Sengoku's gaze fell on the screen. He first frowned. That is. Sengoku recognized Big Mom, who had fire on her head, at a glance, and he could also see that Big Mom was fighting with a strong man. Is this a recording, or a live broadcast? Brand new hurriedly replied. Sengoku-san, this is a live broadcast. This is the live signal from the New World. I don't know why our den-den-mushi can receive the signal. Troublesome. Sengoku sighed with a stern face, but if it was just Big Mom and an unknown strong man fighting, it wouldn't be so panic-stricken, would it? Just as Sengoku was about to ask something, he suddenly froze. His eyes were wide open. Chapter 341, The World Shakes. Blackbeard, is Whitebeard still alive? At this moment, Sengoku would rather believe that his old age has blurred his vision, or even hallucinations, than believe that the man in the projected image is the real Whitebeard. He originally wanted to question where is the truth. But the lifelike Whitebeard in the picture told him silently, Whitebeard is still alive. He watched with his own eyes as the Whitebeard in the picture was fighting with Big Mom. The two fought so fiercely that they turned a battlefield into a purgatory. Especially the vibration power in the picture that could shatter everything, it made Sengoku vaguely recall the scene of the war at the top. He was stunned. He was dumbfounded. Say. Sengoku-san, what I wanted you to see is this thing. Branyu, standing next to him, said with a trembling voice. It is true that the appearance of Whitebeard in the picture has stimulated the nerves of these Marines too much. In the eyes of many Marines, Whitebeard, that man, had already died in the war at the top, and many people had seen Whitebeard die with their own eyes. Who would have thought that a lively Whitebeard would appear in front of them again? For a time, many Marines found it hard to accept this fact. Not only did Sengoku think that the Whitebeard in the picture was fake, but other Marines thought so too. However, could the Whitebeard in the picture be a fake if he could fight one of the four emperors, Big Mom, to this extent? When did a fake become so powerful? At this moment, Sengoku fell into a state of silence. He didn't say a word. The shocked expression on his face gradually receded as time passed second by second. As one of Whitebeard's old rivals, Sengoku was 80% sure that the Whitebeard in the projected image was the real Whitebeard. But how is this possible? Just then, a flash of inspiration crossed Sengoku's mind. Hold on. He finally couldn't help but mutter to himself. Did red-haired Shanks insist on taking Whitebeard's body away because Whitebeard wasn't dead at the time, but was in a state of fake death? Shanks saw this, so he asked to take Whitebeard away, and then he revived Whitebeard? Sengoku didn't know if his guess was right or wrong. He felt a sudden pang in his brain. He couldn't help but reach out two fingers to rub his temples. Whitebeard. Pirate. Shanks. When he put his hand down, the ugly expression on his face could no longer be concealed, and his face was as black as the bottom of a pot. Sengoku began to realize that the Marine had been played by the pirates. The achievements of the Summit War, with the appearance of Whitebeard in the projection screen. More than half of them were lost. The nameless fire and the feeling of suffocation in his heart made Sengoku feel suffocated. Both of his fists were clenched, and the veins on the back of his hand were exposed. The key is that there is nowhere to vent the anger. That made him even more suffocated. Sengoku-san. Should we take some action? Brand new asked weakly. This proposal moved Sengoku's heart, although he didn't know why Whitebeard was still alive, why he suddenly started to fight with Big Mom, but indeed this is a good opportunity. But then, he thought about the pros and cons. He could only shake his head with a black face. If he didn't guess wrong, Whitebeard should be in the New World now. From the Navy headquarters to the New World, and then to the place where Whitebeard and Big Mom were fighting, it's probably almost 10 days. 10 days, it's enough for the fight to end. Unless he let Kizaru fly over alone. But the problem is that it is very likely to be Big Mom's territory. If the Marine rashly enters it, wanting to continue to kill Whitebeard, the first to face may not be Whitebeard, but the full compilation of the Big Mom pirates. It may also have to face a group of remnants of the Whitebeard pirates. How could Kizaru alone be able to beat them? Sengoku also realized that he had lost a game with Whitebeard. He may have won tactically, after all, he killed Roger's son, and also caused heavy losses to the Whitebeard pirates. But strategically, Sengoku lost terribly. Because he let Whitebeard, the world's strongest man, survive. And, this Whitebeard still holds a very strong hatred for the Marine. Next. It's going to be troublesome. Vaguely, Sengoku seemed to smell a smell of sulfur. He turned his head to look in a direction. He found that Sakazuki was standing not far to the left at some point. Sengoku could see that one of Sakazuki's hands had turned into magma, constantly dripping hot lava. Presumably, Sakazuki's mood must not be calm either. The world is going to shake. Whitebeard, this bastard, has shocked the world again. Sengoku gritted his teeth and said word by word. Admiral Akainu, the whereabouts of the Blackbeard pirates have been confirmed. The warships are ready. The warships can set off at any time to chase the Blackbeard pirates. At this time, a Marine soldier hurriedly ran to Sakazuki's side. As a result, he accidentally stepped on the lava on the ground, and he screamed in pain on the spot, lifting one foot and constantly retreating. Sakazuki responded softly. He didn't make any comments on Whitebeard in the projection screen. But obviously, he is not calm. Calm Belt. Amazon Lily Kingdom. The Pirate Empress, Boa Hancock, is also watching the projection screen with full concentration. She just returned to the Amazon Lily from the Navy headquarters a few days ago, and such a big thing happened. Sister, that man is still alive. One of Boa Hancock's two younger sisters, Boa Marigold, was staring at Hancock with her mouth agape. Hancock didn't pick up her words, but just stared quietly at the battle on the screen for several minutes. In this very silent atmosphere, Hancock suddenly asked, if Whitebeard is still alive. Does it mean that Luffy's brother is also alive? Hancock's two younger sisters looked at each other. They also can't be sure if that man called Ace is alive or not. After all, they heard that Ace was pierced through the chest by magma. Even if such injury was treated on the spot, he couldn't be saved, right? But the problem is, the injuries on Whitebeard's body should be much more terrifying than those on Ace's. Whitebeard was able to survive. What if Ace could also survive? This is uncertain. Perhaps. Another sister, Boa Sandersonia, hesitated to say, perhaps alive? I must tell Luffy this news. The Empress couldn't sit still all of a sudden. She turned around and left without hesitation. Holy Land Mary Ejos. One of the five elders, Athenbren Venusjiro, was holding a samurai sword and looking at the projection in front of him with a frown. After a long silence, he said solemnly, he couldn't possibly survive. This might not be the real Whitebeard. I think this should be a clone of Whitebeard. Or someone used the power of the devil fruit to become Whitebeard. In this way, they want to cause a world chaos. Next to him, another five elder, Shepherd Jupiter, flicked a golden hair off his arm. He said, if it's a clone, who can master this scientific technology? If it's a fruit ability, who can compete with Charlotte Linlin? On the other side, also one of the five elders, Jigo Lucia Satan, said with a walking stick, the only person in the world who has this technology is Vegapunk. He paused, and continued, but it's not very likely. Vegapunk has been under our surveillance all the time. If he made a clone of Whitebeard, we couldn't possibly not know. The bearded Marcus Mars interjected, is there a possibility Whitebeard has mastered the power of resurrection? The one with a birthmark pattern on his forehead, Topman Warkery, said, resurrection? Your imagination is too rich. As a result, after talking for a long time, they couldn't discuss a reason. In fact, for these five people, Whitebeard's sudden resurrection is a big event, but it's not a big deal. In the final analysis, in their eyes, no matter how powerful Whitebeard is, he is just a pirate with limited ambition. A pirate who doesn't even want to be the pirate king. It poses no threat to the world government. It's just that Whitebeard's sudden resurrection made them feel a bit out of control and aroused their curiosity. Revolutionary Army's certain base. Whitebeard, wrapped in a dark green cloak, dragon, sweat dripped from his forehead, and then he sighed with emotion. Not only did he come back to life, but his condition seems better than during the summit war. This made Dragon feel very incredible. He was a little confused. How did Whitebeard survive? Because according to the information obtained by the Revolutionary Army, Whitebeard died in the hands of Blackbeard. And before he died, he was seriously injured by Marine Admiral Sakazuki. All the evidence shows that Whitebeard is indeed dead. So, what's the deal with this Whitebeard? Dragon couldn't figure it out. But one thing he was very clear about. Whitebeard's return to the sea in this way of live broadcast would definitely cause a shock to the whole world. He originally thought that the war at the top could change the world's pattern. But he didn't expect. The world pattern did change, but it only changed for less than half a month. Meanwhile, somewhere on an island. This island is already a hell on earth, because the Blackbeard pirates temporarily requisitioned this island. Don't expect a bunch of scum on the sea to be kind and gentle to the civilians on the island. Captain. Teach, something's wrong. Teach, wake up, don't sleep. Something big happened. At this moment, a pirate who had just joined the Blackbeard pirate crew hurriedly shouted at the snoring Blackbeard. Pop. The snot bubble on Blackbeard's nose burst on the spot. After he woke up in a daze, his face was full of displeasure, and he angrily said to the pirate. If it's not something urgent, be careful, I'll throw you into the sea to feed the fish. Teach, I didn't mean to wake you up, mainly because this thing is absolutely a big deal. The pirate hurriedly said. Whitebeard. Under Blackbeard's puzzled gaze, he said something shocking. Whitebeard is still alive. Teach? At this moment, Teach's entire brain went into a crash. Teach has been floating these days, because not only did he make a big splash in the war at the top, but he also gained the power of the Quake fruit, and even made the Blackbeard pirate crew stronger than ever. Now Teach just needs to wait for those newspapers to call him the new four emperors. But the words of the pirate in front of him were like a blow to the head, smashing Teach's head hard. He was so stunned that he was in a daze. He couldn't believe it and grabbed the pirate's neck with one hand, his ugly face full of ferocity. Do you think it's fun to play this kind of joke with me? Teach's palm that was choking the other's neck surged with a wave of vibration. Seeing that his Quake fruit ability was still there, he was even more convinced that the bastard in front of him was here to play with him. Teach. Cough cough. Teach, it's a misunderstanding. Cough cough, it's a misunderstanding. I didn't lie. The pirate in Teach's hand hurriedly begged for mercy and explained. Captain, killing him is useless. One of the members of the Blackbeard pirate crew, Van Auger, came over at some point, and a few shades of gloom hung on his poker face. What do you mean? Teach had a bad feeling. Van Auger pressed his hat and said in a deep voice. He's right, Whitebeard is still alive. The current Whitebeard is in the New World, on the territory of Whole Cake Island, fighting with that old hag Big Mom, and this is a worldwide live broadcast. Teach? On the other side, in a certain sea area of the New World. Blow blow blow. Blow blow blow. The Den Mushi had been ringing for a long time, but Marco had no mood to answer, because Pop's body had not been found. They had been looking for a long time, but they found nothing. The key is that there are no missing people in all the divisions and pirate crews. That is to say, there was no traitor who secretly took Pop's body away. Pop's body just disappeared without a trace. Damn it. Marco gritted his teeth and punched the wall of the cabin hard, and a big hole was punched in the wall of the cabin by his punch. The sound of the Den Mushi ringing for a long time made him very irritable. He finally impatiently answered it. The next moment, the Den Mushi face turned into a Shanks, even the left eye had 3 scars. Before Marco could speak, a very excited voice came from the other side of the phone. Marco could hear it. It was the voice of red-haired Shanks. The other's emotional fluctuations seemed very unstable. Marco? Is it Marco? The Den Mushi shouted. Do you have a broadcast Den Mushi on your ship? Hurry up, if you have one, turn on the broadcast Den Mushi quickly. Don't be shocked. Hurry up. Chapter 342, Shocked Whitebeard Pirate Crew. Whitebeard, stronger than his peak. Marco could hear that red-haired Shank's tone was very anxious. But he didn't know why the other party was so anxious. With a puzzled thought, Marco frowned. He first curiously asked Shanks. Why do you want to use the projection Den Mushi? Because Whitebeard is in the live broadcast image of the projection Den Mushi. The big shout from Shanks was imitated by the Den Mushi vividly. Marco, apostrophe. Shanks' shout startled Marco, who stared in disbelief. Pops appeared in a live broadcast on the Den Mushi. How could this be possible? But the next second, Marco thought of a terrible possibility. Could the mysterious person who stole Pop's body be broadcasting an insult to Pop's body? So, is that why Shanks on the other end of the Den Mushi is so anxious, wanting him to take a look? As soon as this guess popped into Marco's mind, his face was filled with rage. Damn shameless bastard. Even Marco, with his good temperament, couldn't help but curse. Huh? Are you scolding me? Obviously, Shanks on the other end of the phone misunderstood. Marco took a deep breath, forcing himself to calm down. He apologized to Shanks. Sorry. My words just now were not directed at you. I'm going to find a projection den mushy. Marco said and did it. He was already impatient. If someone really broadcasts an insult to Pop's body in front of everyone in the entire sea, he must forcibly suppress his anger and then see who the audacious person is. Only by knowing who the other party is, can they retaliate against them in the future. Otherwise, all the anger can only be vented into the air. Fortunately, there is indeed a projection den mushy on a ship. Marco not only found this den mushy, but also called over all the division commanders of the Whitebeard pirates who were still alive. Under the somewhat puzzled gaze of a group of people, Marco told them about Shanks' phone call and his own guess. The division commanders of the Whitebeard pirates were all in an uproar when they heard it. Everyone's face was full of uncontrollable anger. Damn it! How can there be such a despicable and shameless person in the sea? Vista was so angry that the wounds on his body burst open, but compared to Marco's terrible guess, what does the injury on his body count for? If Pop's body was really insulted, and even seen by everyone in the entire sea, then they, as sons, are simply unworthy of becoming Whitebeard sons. They not only failed to protect Ace, but even failed to protect Whitebeard's body. How can they accept this? This is just my guess, maybe things are not so bad. Seeing this group of people so angry, Marco could only comfort them with a voice. Then, he said, I'm going to turn on this den mushy. I hope everyone is mentally prepared. Having said that, he pressed the button on the back of the den mushy, and then the projection of the den mushy was projected onto the wall of the pirate ship. In the picture, there was a sea of fire and thunder, which made everyone stunned. Big Mom? Suddenly, the 8th Division commander, the fishman Namor, was shocked. This woman. Isn't she Big Mom of the Big Mom pirates? Isn't it said that Pops is in the picture? Why is it this fat woman? Even Marco was surprised by the appearance of Big Mom. He didn't know what was going on. It couldn't be that Shanks was playing an untimely joke with him, could it? That's impossible. That man, red-haired Shanks, would never make such a joke. Wait. Suddenly, Jazu, who had lost an arm, was sharp-minded. He hurriedly shouted, Big Mom seems to be fighting with someone. You guys quickly see who she is fighting with. Although the news bird holding the live broadcast den mushy was scared and trembling by the distant battle, causing the projected picture to be shaking. But as long as you watch carefully, you can still see who the other person is. A group of division commanders stared at it for several seconds. They finally saw the face of the opponent Big Mom was fighting with. A very familiar face appeared in front of them. In an instant, the entire ship fell into a deathly silence. You can see that the expressions of everyone present are so consistent. All were dumbfounded, their eyes wide open. Their eyeballs were almost about to pop out. The captain of the 11th Division, King Dio, was dumbfounded, his voice inevitably trembling. Did I just see it wrong? Is it real or fake? The captain of the 16th Division, Izo, was shocked and murmured, if the person you saw is Pops, then you didn't see it wrong. Because I saw it too. One by one, the division captains couldn't help but look at each other. In the end, everyone's eyes fell on Marco, the captain of the 1st Division. After all, Marco in the Whitebeard Pirates is actually equivalent to the vice-captain of the pirate group. When an incomprehensible situation occurred, everyone focused their eyes on Marco, the mainstay. At this moment, Marco was also stunned. He couldn't say a word for a long time. This eerie silence lasted for several minutes. Marco finally spoke, his eyes full of shock and disbelief. That person and Pops look exactly the same. Jazu, however, had a different opinion. What do you mean he looks exactly like Pops? This person is clearly Pops himself. His loud voice made Marco wake up as if from a dream. Yes. That's Pops himself. Exactly the same. The familiar man in the live broadcast picture showed the power and fighting style that were exactly the same as Pops. Marco even saw that Whitebeard in the picture hit the air with a punch, immediately causing a terrifying shock wave. And the weapon in the hand of Whitebeard in the picture is obviously Pops' Murakamagiri. All signs indicate that the other party seems to be their Pops. But the 12th Division captain, Haruta, couldn't help but say, Pops has obviously. His body has been on a ship for a while. And Pop's devil fruit ability, wasn't it taken away by that bastard Blackbeard? Yes. How to explain this? In the end, it was still Marco who gritted his teeth and made a decision. For now, don't go to Pop's hometown. We change course and head to Tato Land immediately. He must see it for himself. He must figure out if the Whitebeard in the live broadcast picture is really their Pops. No one objected to Marco's decision. Even if this possibility is so slim, so incredible, so unrealistic. They would rather believe that the Whitebeard in the live broadcast is their pops. At this moment, no one said anything against it. No one broke the hope in others' hearts. New World, Todo Land. Late at night. The battle between Whitebeard and Big Mom has been going on for a full 10 hours, and the fierce battle between the two has been maintained at a high intensity. Neither Whitebeard nor Big Mom showed any signs of fatigue. But, Big Mom's physical strength and condition are very abundant. It doesn't mean that her 3 special hummies are the same. Even if these 3 special hummies are made with Big Mom's own soul fragments, but their opponent is Whitebeard. Mama, I can't hold on anymore. Napoleon cried with a sad face. Even if Big Mom's armament hockey and Conqueror's hockey were protecting it, when it collided with Whitebeard's Murakamagiri, Napoleon had a feeling that it was going to be cut open. Especially every wave of Whitebeard's terrifying brute force, it made Napoleon tremble with fear. However, Big Mom didn't listen to Napoleon's complaint. She laughed grimly and swung her sword hard at Whitebeard. Gorrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrr turned his sword with a grim laugh. Murakami and Napoleon collided again. Mama, what's the matter with you? How do you feel younger? This was Big Mom's doubt. Whitebeard's smile became stronger. He said in a hearty voice, "That's because I have a group of very filial sons and daughters." Gorrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrr scaring Zeus into rushing over to catch her. "Ma, you bastard are really hard to kill." Whitebeard. Big Mom, however, grabbed Zeus with one hand, letting Zeus coil around her right arm. Zeus thunder. Big Mom aimed at Whitebeard in the distance with one hand, and Zeus in her hand erupted with astonishing lightning. A terrifying thunderbolt shot towards Whitebeard. Whitebeard was not afraid at all, he didn't even dodge, he directly slashed at the thunderbolt with a sword wrapped in armament hockey and vibration waves. Boom. With a loud rumble, the thunderbolt was deflected by Whitebeard's sword and flew towards the distant Biscuit Island. The unlucky Biscuit Island was immediately blasted out a huge pit by the thunderbolt, like a large lake appearing in the belly of the island. The entire island seemed to be pierced through, seawater began to pour into the bottom of the pit, it seemed to really form a saltwater lake. Prometheus fire. Big Mom casually threw Napoleon up, left hand Prometheus, right hand Zeus, both arms together. Thunder and flames began to twist and converge at a high speed, forming a beam of terrifying energy laser beam, shooting straight at Whitebeard. Quake C. This was the first time Whitebeard shouted out a technique name. He also threw more Akamagi Ray up, both hands clasped the air in front of him, as if he was holding something solid. In the moment when the fire ray was about to fly close, Whitebeard's eyes flashed with cold light, he suddenly pulled his arms down. In an instant, the air, seabed, seawater, including fire ray, all were strongly affected by the quake fruit. Everything in front of him seemed to be turning upside down, a tsunami that seemed to be able to destroy the world was easily lifted up. Even the seabed was shaken out of astonishing seabed cracks. The fire ray shot out by Big Mom was also twisted by the vibration force, and was actually shattered by the vibration. It was also at this time that Whitebeard reached out to catch the falling Akamagi ray. He stomped on the air, and his whole body instantly broke through the air and flew towards Big Mom. The speed was so fast that in the moment when Big Mom's eyes widened, Whitebeard's sword had already slashed down on her head. And this sword also carries the power of the quake fruit. Even Whitebeard used the awakening power of the devil fruit. The vibration not only affects physical matter, but even abstract things like space are affected and twisted by the vibration force. The vibration force bypassed Big Mom's iron balloon defense, and the intense vibration impact made Big Mom's eyes roll up. She even let out the first scream from her mouth, the sharp and piercing scream. Even Whitebeard felt it was very uncomfortable to listen to. Gorrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrr suddenly exerted force, and the awakening power of the quake fruit was stimulated by him to a new height. Big Mom vomited a large mouthful of fresh blood on the spot. The vibration made her bones all fracture, and the broken bones even pierced into the flesh and internal organs. Under the intense pain, Big Mom forcibly divided a piece of soul fragment and poured all the soul fragments into her body. Come back to life. My bones and internal organs. Big Mom roared with blood in her mouth. Yes. Mom. The broken bones and injured internal organs in her body actually made a sound. She is using the power of the fruit to make her injured parts come alive. The injured parts that were given souls began to reorganize themselves, and the fractures and other injuries in Big Mom's body were forcibly restored to their original state. Damn Whitebeard. It hurts. Big Mom gritted her teeth and resisted the vibration, and slashed at Whitebeard with a sword. After temporarily forcing Whitebeard to retreat a little distance, She divided out a part of the soul fragments again, and threw them into Zeus, Prometheus, and Napoleon respectively. Hey! Big Mom's eyes were filled with rage and cold light, and her conqueror's haki never stopped releasing. Forcing me to consume a year of my life, it is indeed you. Whitebeard. A sphere of soul light appeared in her right hand, and without hesitation, Big Mom swallowed it. Her eyes suddenly widened, an incredibly strong aura burst forth, and her body visibly swelled. She was truly like an iron balloon. She had inflated from over 8 meters tall to a whopping 20 to 30 meters. Zeus, Prometheus, and Napoleon also grew several times larger. Big Mom held Napoleon in one hand, with Prometheus and Zeus wrapped around Napoleon's blade. Big Mom roared in a sharp, piercing voice. I don't want to fight with you, you old bastard, for 10 days and nights. Just watch and see if I've made any progress in these past years. Damn Whitebeard. I'm going to take you down within an hour. The 3 special homies had merged into one, forming a special sword of light. Light cannon. Big Mom, holding the sword of light, thrust it out into the air, and another powerful laser shot towards Whitebeard. Gorrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrr and slashed hard. The light cannon and Murakami ray collided fiercely. Whitebeard was knocked back several tens of meters, but he managed to block the attack head-on. Gorrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrr Newgate who's even stronger than he was in his prime. Whitebeard swung back with a terrifying slash, the force of which distorted space and cut across the sky, landing on Big Mom in an instant. Hiss. Big Mom's painful scream rang out again. Her enlarged body, although stronger and more defensive than before, had slowed down. As Big Mom screamed and stiffened, Whitebeard had already closed in on her again. Whitebeard twirled his blade and slashed hard at Big Mom's head. Shockwave. Chapter 343, Big Mom, defeated. A 4 Emperors level hostage. In such a critical moment, Big Mom didn't even have time to block Whitebeard's attack with her Sword of Light. She could only manage to cover her forehead with a layer of armament hockey. When the blade of Murakamagi lightly touched her forehead, Big Mom, who had barely regained a bit of consciousness and sanity, was once again dazed and dizzy from the vibrating force. The force that could distort space even vibrated her fragile brain. Big Mom spat out another mouthful of old blood from her ferocious mouth. With her eyes rolling back in her head, her huge, fat body fell towards the sea below. The Sword of Light in her hand transmitted the cries of the 3 special homies, Mama. Among them, Zeus hurriedly separated from the Sword of Light. He wanted to catch Big Mom, who was about to fall into the sea. But the next second, a hand wrapped in armament hockey grabbed Zeus and easily held him. Gorrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrr Zeus? Zeus's eyes widened, and he broke out in a cold sweat. Wee wee Whitebeard. Then, Zeus could only watch as Big Mom let out a shrill scream and fell straight into the sea. Splash. A water splash several tens of meters high splashed up. Zeus was very anxious in his heart, but he didn't dare to struggle. Because he knew how powerful Whitebeard was. He felt that if he struggled, he might be crushed by Whitebeard the next second. Prometheus and Napoleon, just as Big Mom was about to fall into the sea, they also hurriedly split apart. Prometheus accidentally got hit by the water splash caused by Big Mom falling into the sea. It let out a terrified scream, "Ah! Water! I've touched water! Ah!" Napoleon was also frantically shouting, "Zeus! Prometheus! Catch me! I can't fly!" Splash! Poor Napoleon, he fell down with Big Mom. Because Zeus and Prometheus, the two homies, one was caught by Whitebeard, and the other was screaming in horror. At this moment, Big Mom in the sea was still screaming sharply, but the next second the power of the sea made Big Mom enter a state of exhaustion. Big Mom suddenly widened her bloodshot eyes, the strong sense of suffocation and a weak sense of detachment made her quickly wake up from the painful trance. She immediately realized that she had been knocked into the sea. Big Mom instinctively wanted to struggle, but her ridiculously fat body, falling into the sea, could only keep falling down. She couldn't struggle at all. She also didn't have the strength to wave her fat limbs. A series of bubbles spurted out of Big Mom's mouth and nose. She hurriedly covered her mouth and nose, trying to make herself last a little longer in the sea. Gorrrrrrrr. Whitebeard used observation hockey to sense Big Mom's gradually weakening breath at the bottom of the sea. He shouted loudly to Cookie Island, "Stupid sons! Come and fish the hostage up. This woman is very heavy. More people come." Gorrrrrrrr. Whitebeard's laughter echoed through the sky, which meant that his battle with Big Mom that lasted for more than 10 hours finally ended. In the distance on the sea surface, a little dawn appeared. Whitebeard and Big Mom fought from afternoon to evening, from evening to deep night, and from deep night to early morning. And both sides have been going all out, without reducing their physical strength. If it weren't for Whitebeard's strength already surpassing Big Mom, I'm afraid this battle would have to last for several days and nights. Is it over? Sasuke couldn't help but swallow a mouthful of saliva. He found that he was already sweating profusely at this moment, and his clothes were soaked with sweat. Whitebeard and Big Mom's final battlefield was actually quite far from Biscuit Island. But Whitebeard's hearty laughter, accompanied by the power of the Quake fruit, spread far to Biscuit Island. His laughter is like announcement to everyone on Biscuit Island know that this battle was won by Whitebeard. 15 hours. Orochimaru's face was a little tired.